Chapter 420. For the next few days, you can practice on your own in the villa and suppress it yourself. If you don't have enough practice materials, I can provide you with some. That's all for today. You don't have to go to school for now. Now, the people from the second grade class 6 are going to fight with you for a table. If you go, you'll just be fighting. It's meaningless. Why don't you stay in the villa to strengthen your foundation and make your future more stable? I'll let Li Chenglong tell you the day before the trial. When Xingtian looked up, it was past 3 in the morning. In a while the sky would be bright. Teacher Wen walked out calmly. Take a rest. You must be tired today. Remember to take care of your throat. Zhuoxiaoduo's previous miserable howls were so loud that his throat almost cracked from shouting. Thank you for your concern, teacher. Zhuoxiaoduo was a little worried. Teacher Wen's condition looked very calm. But why did it seem like something wasn't right? What was going on? At this moment, a dull thud came from downstairs. It was like the sound of Xiang Tianfei hitting the door frame that day. Then there was silence. Only the door frame was still buzzing. No one knew who had hit it. Zhuoxiaoduo threw himself onto the bed and stretched his body. He was a little excited. Sometimes a person's strength is limited. When you reach your limit, you will reach your limit. Seems like this is my limit. Even Teacher Wen said it's okay. It's a pity that if I want to catch up with Nian Nian Cat, it's definitely not enough. Then I'll work hard a few more times. Nian Nian Cat is someone who has suppressed dozens of times in the embryonic breathing realm. My level is far from it. Zhuoxiaoduo was excited, but also a little melancholy. It's really quite difficult. Now, she should be in the suppression period of the inner elixir realm. After thinking about it, he couldn't relax. He still had to work hard. This matter involved the major problem of his future husband's authority. This was a matter of principle. Who would be willing to be beaten up by his wife? If he could win, he would be giving in to her and pampering her. But if he couldn't win, he would be living off a woman, right? Master Zhuo was a great husband. How could he live off a woman? Although it was good to live off a woman. Thus, he took out another pile of astral soul's jade and began absorbing them. Although the effect of the upper grade was the best, the middle grade couldn't be wasted. It was still quite effective. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Zhuoxiaoduo opened his eyes. The whole bed was covered in powder again. He used his primordial qi to wrap up the powder. With a wave of his hand, a large ball of powder flew out of the window. It flew straight for more than 100 meters and accurately landed in a pool that Li Chenglong had painstakingly built. It was called the Dregs Pool. At that time, Swollen was in high spirits. He dug several meters into the ground and created a large pit with a radius of several zhang. In the next few years, this pool will be filled with the dregs of the astral souls. Zhuoxiaoduo muttered to himself. Looking at this speed, it shouldn't take more than a few years. His stomach was rumbling with hunger. He pulled out a large piece of mutton from his spatial ring and chewed on it. I inherited this skill from Nian Nian Cat. I stored a lot of beef and mutton, roasted beef, roasted lamb legs, and so on in the space in case of an emergency. It was the perfect time to eat. The amount of astral soul's jade is still insufficient. I need to find another way to obtain it. Zhuoxiaoduo felt that it wasn't a good idea to keep taking from Fang Yinhua. The main reason was that his needs would only increase. Even if Fang Yinhua was willing to help, he would still meet a ghost if he walked in the dark too often. Although Fang Yinua's cultivation was extremely high and had already reached the half-step divine reigning realm, in Phoenix City, he might be invincible. However, in Fenghai it was not enough to show disdain for everyone. It was far from enough. Once something happened to him, the spies that he had arranged would be useless. Also, Fang Yinhua had said that it was extremely difficult to obtain the upper grade jade of astral soul's jade in Fenghai. Possible it was better to find another way. As he thought about it, he sent a message to Fang Yinhua. What are you doing? I'm running around for young master. Come over. Location sent. In less than 10 minutes, Fang Yinhua arrived at the villa. Young master, I've prepared another 10,000 upper grade jade of astral souls for you. It's all here. Thank you for your trouble. The matter of exchanging the astral beasts has already taken shape. I've already bought the manor outside the city. All that's left is to wait for the astral beasts to arrive. I'll make the manor's perimeter more secure, and keep it a secret to the greatest extent. Thank you for your concern. Also, young master has always asked me to pay attention to the Wu family and the Gao family. During this period of time, there hasn't been any movement. It seems that they really don't intend to seek revenge. Although it's against common sense, it's true based on the situation of the two families. There must be something wrong if there's an abnormality. We still can't relax. Be careful and nothing will happen. Yes, I understand. It's better to be safe than sorry. Oh right, what's the name of the teacher who led Fenghai's 13th high school to participate in the Dragon and Tiger list? Li Chengqiu, right? Zhuo Duo sighed. The road of the martial world is long. I don't know where my old friend is. You can help me ask around. I still miss him very much. Zhuo Duo said, I really want to. Go and see him. This is easy. I'll go and ask around later. Everything has to be done quickly. Gather all the materials you can as soon as possible. Then write them down and give them to me. Zhuo Duo reminded him. Your physiognomy hasn't been good these few days. There's a malefic star in the west. Try not to go to the west. Try to avoid it as much as possible. Yes. Thank you for your advice, young master. Feng Yinhua was overjoyed. His face was full of gratitude. In the past few days, Feng Yinhua also felt that his mind was unstable. It was as if something bad was about to happen. This strange feeling had saved him several times. He was already suspicious of everything, but he couldn't pinpoint the cause. Especially when he went out to do business in the early morning, he had a vague feeling that someone was spying on him. Now that he heard Zhuo Xiaoduo's words, he suddenly felt enlightened. In an instant, the uneasiness in his heart disappeared. His mind became clear again. A sense of reliance arose spontaneously. It was still good to have a backer. Although this backer's cultivation level wasn't very high, his ability to give advice on life and death was more suitable for his needs. A casual sentence could avert a disaster. Feng Yinhua was very satisfied. Zhuo Xiaoduo practiced for a while and hammered the hammer twice. Seeing that it was almost 11:30, he went out to buy some necessities and prepared some food. With a stretch of his body, he disappeared without a trace. He was heading towards Grandmusher's courtyard. In the school, it was also lunchtime. When Xingtian looked at the food in front of him, he didn't eat for a long time. No one knew what he was thinking. What's wrong with you? Xiang Kuangren walked to Wen Xingtian's side and sat down. He patted Wen Xingtian's shoulder casually. However, he didn't expect that this action would give Teacher Wen a shock. The yuan qi in his body was restless. He was almost about to attack. What? Why do you look like you're lovesick? What's wrong? Could it be that you really like her? Xiang Kuangren was very interested in a certain someone. It has nothing to do with you, right? How could Wen Xingtian tell this guy that he really liked her? This guy had a straightforward temper but also a big mouth. Although he was a good person and could make people feel at ease, sometimes his mouth really couldn't be relied on. A big mouth could ruin things. Wen Xingtian didn't even want to tell Yi Chongqing about Zhuo Xiaoduo. How could he tell Xiang Kuangren? You really like her? Tell me. Xiang Kuangren was getting more and more excited. It was probably because he had been a passive otaku for more than 20 years. It was rare for him to have such shocking gossip in front of him. Bullshit. Hey, my bad temper. Xiang Kuangren glared. I'm the vice principal. You're just a martial arts department head. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? How can you talk to the principal like that? Get lost. Who cares about being the principal? You're just a vice principal. What's there to talk about? If you have the guts, you can be the principal. If that day really comes, I'll tell you everything you ask me. That won't do. Bossy isn't dead yet. I can't be the principal. Xiang Kuangren shook his head. Even if Bossy is dead, it still won't be your turn. I'm not afraid to tell you that Bossy specifically came to me a few days ago, hoping that I could replace him. I told him that I didn't care. When Xingtian snorted, keep bragging. It won't be your turn no matter what. Xiang Kuangren expressed his dissatisfaction. Then it won't be your turn? Just tell me if you're leaving or not. When Xingtian finally said impatiently, you better think it through. Your great-grandson and great-granddaughter are in my class now. Old man, if you have nothing to do, then get lost. Otherwise, I'll train them to death and feel sorry for you. Train as you wish. Xiang Kuangren said indifferently. My Xiang family has a lot of seeds. I'm not afraid of training. I'm not afraid of training. I'm afraid of not training. Shda. When Xingtian rolled his eyes speechlessly. What did you do to Vice Principal Wei? I've noticed that he hasn't appeared in school recently. It's nothing. I just asked him to discuss it with Wu Lugao and the others. Everyone collectively took a step back. It's clearly a legitimate request, but this guy actually refused to go. Xiang Kuangren expressed his dissatisfaction. That guy didn't listen. Did he think that he would be fine if he hid? What? I advise you to be more careful. When Xingtian said with a sullen face, Vice Principal Wei's true cultivation and combat strength might not be weaker than yours. Be careful not to fail miserably. If you fail again, you might not be so lucky to make a comeback. You fought with him before? Humph. When Xingtian grunted and didn't say anything else. No matter how Xiang Kuangren asked, he didn't say a word. Can I tell you that when Wei was first transferred here, I didn't like him and went to beat him up at night with a mask on my face? It damaged my image in the end. While Xiang Kuangren was still blabbering on and on, when Xingtian picked up his bowl of rice and walked away impatiently, left Xiang Kuangren was dumbfounded. Do you really not want to see me talking here? Hee hee. I beg for monthly votes, recommendation tickets, and subscriptions. Chapter 421. Xiang Kuangren watched as when Xingtian left. He could not help but curse fuck. After so many years, their bad tempers had not changed at all. They all followed the rules to outsiders, but when they were alone with him, they were all so rude. I'm the first vice principal. Fuck. All this time, wasn't it just to remind me that the Wei guy was quite impressive? Humph. I appreciate your kindness. Xiang Kuangren sat in his seat. The Wei guy was not simple. The Wu guy, the Lu guy, the Gao guy, which one of them was simple? Every one of them was so scheming. After a few days of provocation and showing his existence, Xiang Kuangren felt that he was sitting on the mouth of a volcano. His strong return and his reappointment as the first vice principal had undoubtedly touched the fundamental interests of these families. Therefore, it should not be long before they made a move on him. I'm waiting for that day. Xiang Kuangren's eyes flickered. This bunch of despicable people, don't be afraid at the crucial moment. I've been waiting for that day for more than a day or two. Zuoxiao Duo came to the shabby little courtyard again. At this time, Grandma Sher was cooking. Smoke rose slowly from the kitchen. Grandma Sher sat withered in the kitchen, silent. He didn't know how many years it had been, but he had spent it so desolately. The door opened, but Grandma Sher did not get up. Perhaps it was a messenger sending something. Over the years, these people were the ones who came the most. However, at most it was a routine verification of names. There was nothing else. Grandma Sher. I'm here to see you. Zuoxiao's voice came from outside at the right time. Grandma Sher's expression finally changed. She opened her eyes. Zuoxiao Duo? She turned around and saw Zuoxiao Duo standing in the living room with a smile on his face. He was holding a lunchbox in one hand and 2 bottles of wine in the other. He was busy placing them on the coffee table. Teacher Wen gave me a day off today. I was bored, so I came over to accompany Grandma Sher and have a meal together. You don't mind my sudden visit, do you? Zuoxiao Duo chuckled and acted very familiar. He quickly placed the food on the table and took out a plate of astral beast meat from his ring. Including the plate of star beast meat, it was still a home-cooked meal that ordinary people could afford. Zuoxiao Duo did not deliberately make anything fancy. You child. Grandma Sher finally walked out of the kitchen. Why did you come here alone? I'm really free today. Zuoxiao Duo chuckled. The chopsticks and wine glasses are in the kitchen, right? I'll go get it. He ran into the kitchen and took out the tableware and wine utensils. He helped Grandma Sher to sit at the side while he sat at the head of the table, emptying the seat of honor. Then, he placed a wine cup and chopsticks on the table and opened the wine bottle. The aroma of the wine wafted out as he poured 3 full cups of wine. He rubbed his hands and said, "It smells so good." Grandma Sher looked at Zuoxiao Duo, who was busy and filled the room with youthful vitality. Her eyes, which had withered for God knows how many years, slowly shone with warmth. My talent was not good, and I was so focused on cultivation that I became stupid. I don't know how to do anything, so I bought ready-made food. It definitely doesn't smell as good as the ones I made myself. Zhou Xiaoduo chuckled. Grandma Sure, you must be lonely eating alone. Even if Grandpa Sure is with you, there will be one less person to talk to. Why don't I buy more and put it here? If there's nothing to eat in the future, I'll come over and freeload. Grandma Sure picked up the wine cup and focused for a moment. She raised her hand to the portrait and paused for a second. Then she closed her eyes and drank it. She sat quietly and felt the wine flowing in her body. After a long time she said lightly, I don't entertain guests here. How can I be a guest? I'm your student, your dear student. Zhou Xiaoduo eagerly filled Grandma Sure's cup with wine and gently poured the wine from the head of the table from left to right on the ground. Suddenly, the fragrance of the wine filled the air. Then, he picked up his own wine cup and raised it to the portrait. Principal Sure, I'm Zhou Xiaoduo. I'm new to the Hidden Dragon High School. In the future, please take care of me. I'll give you a toast. After he finished speaking, he raised his cup and drank it. The eyes in the portrait looked at him quietly, without saying a word or moving. After this meal they ate and drank in silence. Zhou Xiaoduo also did not speak much. Other than persuading Grandma Sure to eat, he also drank. When the wine arrived, he downed the cup and drank in an exceptionally honest manner. The two of them emptied the 2 bottles of wine in 3 cups. Zhou Xiaoduo helped to clean up the trash and smiled. Grandma Sure, I'll leave you to it. I'll go back now. Grandma Sure did not say anything. Zhou Xiaoduo did not stay any longer. He stood up and left. During the entire meal, Zhou Xiaoduo didn't say anything, nor did he ask any questions. What was the matter with Principal Sure's grievance back then? Why was Grandma Sure the only one in the house? Where did the others go? How did she survive all these years? He did not say or ask any of these questions. He just had a peaceful meal. After Zhou Xiaoduo left, Grandma Sure did not move for a long time. Her gaze was fixed on the sofa where Zhou Xiaoduo had sat. There was still a small dent that was slowly recovering. Grandma Sure's eyes flashed. She raised her hand and pressed down in the air. The dent caved in again. It seemed that the young man was still sitting there. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. In these few days, Zhou Xiaoduo would bring wine and dishes to Grandma Sure's place to eat. Twice he even met a messenger. Many letters were brought into the room. There were also a few parcels containing military medals. Every time he would leave after eating, he would not stay for long. It was as if he really came to eat with her. Grandma Sure did not refuse or say anything. She watched him come and go calmly. However, Zhou Xiaoduo's arrival always added some vitality to this desolate little courtyard. Every time he went, Zhou Xiaoduo would change his appearance. He would only return to his original appearance when he entered the small courtyard. Every time he left, he would also change his appearance when he went out. Before anything was clear, Zhou Xiaoduo would not cause trouble for himself. He did not want to cause trouble for Grandma Sure. Even if he was not afraid of trouble, there was no need to cause more trouble and add more variables. After lunch, Zhou Xiaoduo said as he tidied up, Grandma Sure, I might not be able to come tomorrow or the day after. The school is organizing a new student trial. I have to go out of the city. Grandma Sure raised her head and looked at him. After a long time she said, okay. That was all she said. She did not say anything else. However, Zhou Xiaoduo did not care. After tidying up, he left. Turning out of the alley, he saw 2 people painting slogans on the main street. Zhou Xiaoduo did not pay them any attention and walked past them. However, he suddenly stopped. This was because there were 16 big red words painted on the originally snow-white wall. Scum of the human world, scum of the cultured, a beast in human clothing. You are not worthy of being a teacher. There was a big red arrow behind the words, pointing to the alley of Grandma Sure's small courtyard. Zhou Xiaoduo's face darkened. Those 2 were ordinary people. They did not have any cultivation. However, the anger in Zhou Xiaoduo's heart was boiling. Why would ordinary people persist in scolding others for more than 20 years? Why would they still paint slogans after more than 20 years? What kind of deep hatred did they have? No, how could there be deep hatred? Zhou Xiaoduo ruled out the suspicion of these 2 people. However, this matter must have been instructed by someone. There was only one purpose in doing this, and that was to force this lonely old woman to death. Zhuo strode forward. He raised his sword and peeled off the entire wall. The sword flashed and there was a crash. The two people screamed. The tools in their hands fell to the ground. You. Who are you? What do you want? One of them was holding a pen in his hand. His handwriting was quite good. He also appeared to be gentle and refined. Zhuo approached him fiercely. Tell me, who asked you to write? No one. Slap. Zhuo slapped him. Although he didn't use a lot of strength, it was already a strength that two ordinary people couldn't withstand. His entire body was sent flying by this slap. He spun a few rounds in the air before falling down. When they opened their mouths, 7 or 8 teeth fell out. Their mouths were full of blood. They covered their mouths and said incoherently, You are a martial artist. The country has regulations that martial artists cannot attack ordinary people. You will be punished by the law. While they were stubborn, they stepped back with their legs on the ground. Their eyes were full of fear and panic. A martial artist? How could a martial artist attack ordinary people? Was he not afraid? You want to talk about the law with me? I am the law. I have killed so many ordinary people. Why would I care about the two of you? Zhuo's face was fierce. His eyes were ferocious. I guess your house is not far from here, right? Let's go to your house and talk. You must have brought your ID, right? I am not used to being tainted by karma. I might as well solve it all at once. As he spoke, he searched. These two people did not bring their ID. It seemed that they lived nearby and were not far from each other. What are you doing? The two people were so scared that they almost peed. We are ordinary people. Let me tell you, don't be stupid. In the eyes of the law, we are the weak. Slap. Another 2 slaps were given. Damn it, ordinary people have become your amulet? Fuck your mother. Don't you understand human language? I am the law. Zhuo scolded. If we go to your house now and then to his house, I will kill your whole family. If you don't talk, I will kill your whole family in front of you. Who ordered you to do this? Are you going to talk? Zhuo asked again. The two people hesitated for a moment. Zhuo had already picked them up with each hand. It seems that you are stubborn. Then let's go to your house. This place is not big. I don't believe that I can't find out. Please spare our lives. Who ordered you to do this? It was the director. It was Director Sunday. Director? What director? Then where is Director's son? The 2 slaps knocked out the other side of the two people's teeth. Since you have revealed the mastermind, I will be merciful and let you go today. But let me tell you, if you come out to write nonsense, destroy the sanitation, and affect the city's image again, I will kill your whole family. It is everyone's responsibility to protect the environment. Do you understand? Zhuo had received the director's news. Naturally, he would not kill these 2 people. They were just 2 ordinary people who were instructed by the director to do work. This was their job. Work? How ironic. Zhuo was extremely unhappy. His murderous intent was bursting out of his body. This method was extremely vicious. It was a true method to kill. The streets were full of such slogans. People coming and going were talking about what happened in the past, and how shameless it was that after a long time, Grandmaster might really be forced to death by them. Being blamed by thousands and dying without a cause was not just a saying. Grandmaster's current eccentricity and autism were probably forced out by such methods after so many years. Can't beat you. Can't meet you face to face. But, in reality and on the internet, you are disgusted everywhere. The world is surging, turning into a vast sea of evil. Let's see how long a disheartened sampan like you can survive in this boundless sea. Chapter 422. Therefore, even though Zhuo knew that these 2 were just ordinary people who were sent out to do some work, he could not help but lose his temper. In fact, the killing intent in that split second wasn't an illusion. It was an action that he wanted to take, but in the end he held it back. He could hide his tracks, but Grandmaster would inevitably be implicated. That was not something he wanted to see. Public opinion killed people like a knife. Slogans were posted all over the street, trying to force a person who did not have much attachment to this world to death. It was definitely a huge push on the road of life and death. The effect was immediate and obvious. Zhuo Duo walked around a few more times and found a few slogans that had been written, but they were all destroyed. Then, he went all the way to the director's house. In front of the whole family, he kicked the door open and grabbed the fat middle-aged man. He grinned and said, "Director's son, right? Last year you played with a girl at Brilliant Sky and you haven't paid yet. How long do you want to owe me? Pay up." The middle-aged man was shocked and angry. "I didn't. You. Who are you? It's illegal to trespass on private property." Zhuo Duo slapped him in the face and said fiercely, "If you pay me, do you think I'll break into your house? Pay up now." Now the interest had compounded, and it was already 3 million star yuan. "If you don't pay up today, I'll take your whole family's lives." "What 3 million? I don't know. You've got the wrong person." Director's son was angry and scared. He tried his best to defend himself. On the other hand, his wife's face was filled with suspicion as if she was deep in thought. His son, on the other hand, was dumbstruck and at a loss for what to do. "It's fine if you don't pay up. I'll ask you one thing. If you tell me the truth, I'll let you go." Zhuo Duo leaned close to Director's son's face and said softly, word by word, "Those slogans outside. Who asked you to do it? What did you get in return?" 10 minutes later, Zhuo Duo walked out of Director's son's house. His face was full of anger and his heart was full of resentment. The matter was simple. More than 10 years ago, Director's son was found by someone who asked him to post slogans like that every year. At least 50 slogans a year. The corresponding price was 10,000 star dollars a year. Just by painting 50 slogans, he could earn 10,000 star dollars. This amount of money was simply too easy to come by. Director's son didn't even think about it and directly agreed. He had been doing this for 13 years. Do you know why? Yes, to discuss that old lady. Who is that old lady? The wife of Vice Principal Sher of Hidden Dragon High School. Vice Principal Sher has been dead for so many years. Why are you still playing? 10,000 a year. It was that simple. Do you know that doing this will force people to their deaths? I know. Do you have a grudge against him? No. Then why? 10,000 a year. Who is that person? I don't know. What does he look like? He's tall and skinny. I've only seen him once and he never came again. It's been more than 10 years, but he gives me money every year. Why are you still spamming if you don't come? Sometimes if I don't pay enough, the other party will call me to ask, "What's his phone number?" It's here. These are all his numbers, but I can't get through when I call him back. He should have thrown it away after using it. Just for 10,000 a year? Yes. Take a guess. Is it this person who dares to kill your entire family or me? You. Tell me honestly, do you know that this old lady is innocent? This. Do you know? Yes. Then why did you still do it? 10,000 a year. Hero, my family is poor. A sudden surge of anger rushed up. Zhuo Duo only felt a buzzing in his head, and he almost couldn't control himself and killed him on the spot. However, this was actually the only clue in this vast and desolate place. Zhuo Duo suppressed his murderous intent. Do you still want to do it in the future? I don't dare to do it anymore. With Zhuo Duo's means, Director's son was soon terrified. Completely terrified. Especially when Zhuo Duo was choking his son until he was out of breath. Department Director's son answered all of his questions without hesitation. Zhuo Duo only felt an indescribable sadness rising from the bottom of his heart as he walked. Sadness. 10,000 a year. He could use such means to cruelly increase the pressure on this lonely and pitiful old lady until she was crushed to death. 10,000 a year could force a Yunduan master to death. Force the death of the widow of a principal who had students all over the world. A teacher who had devoted his life to teaching students. Martial artists couldn't attack ordinary people, but could ordinary people be unscrupulous? This world that claimed to respect martial artists was ridiculous. Zhuo Duo's face was gloomy as he shook the spatial ring. All the valuable things in Director Sun's house were stored in this ring, including all the electrical appliances, furniture, and life savings. How could Zhou Xiaoduo let Director Sun's family off so easily? If you take everything away, how will my family survive? I still have a wife and children. My children still have to go to school. Director Sun was in tears. Snot and tears flowed down his face as he knelt on the ground and begged bitterly. However, Zhou Xiaoduo's heart was as hard as iron. He was not moved at all. How you raise your wife and children has nothing to do with me. I'm just a robber. Do you want me to help you out? Zhou Xiaoduo swaggered off. There were already clues. A few mobile phone numbers were of course one-time use. They would be abandoned after being used once. However, as long as they were used, there would still be clues to follow, and there would be a direction to continue the investigation. A total of 5 mobile phone numbers were called 5 times. Among the 4 numbers, only one was from Fenghai City. The other 4 were all from Shangjing. Shangjing. Zhou Xiaoduo pursed his lips. Was there really a clue in this matter? Or was the other party deliberately misleading him? Was he deliberately leading the investigation to Shangjing? Forget it. After the trial was over, he would look at the follow-up. If Grandma Sher's side continued to encounter trouble, he might as well simply make this director disappear from the face of the earth. It was not a big deal. Grandma Sher's cultivation was so high. She had not made a move all this time because she was too honest and was too restrained by her identity. And what others were bullying was her honesty and her self-respect. Zhou Xiaoduo had always scoffed at this. Honesty? What's the use? Who dares to mess with me like this? Do you really think I don't dare to kill your whole family? Standing at the corner of the street, looking at the wall that he had just flattened and the large amount of paint scattered on the ground. The bright red dye was a pool on the ground, bright and dazzling. It was like the blood that Principal Sher had spilled on the battlefield back then. Looking at the small alley that led to Grandma Sher's house, looking at the surrounding houses, he spread out his divine consciousness and listened to the conversations of all the nearby residents in his own house. Zhou Xiaoduo, the young man who had a heterodox demon heart on his first test, felt a little lost for the first time. He even felt a little powerless. He seemed to see Principal Sher's calm gaze looking at the surging turbid world. Behind the calm gaze was a heart that gradually turned cold. He also saw Grandma Sher's skinny body tossing and turning in the torrential waves of the boundless sea, rising up and down. She was a powerhouse. She had the ability to completely flatten the waves around her with a raise of her hand. She could evaporate everything with a raise of her hand. But so what? How could she sweep the endless sea clean? How could she bear to sweep it clean? Wasn't the reason why she cultivated desperately and worked hard to become stronger to protect the peace and happiness of this world? It was not easy for her to stand in the clouds with her cultivation. Was she going to do something evil to her original intention? For thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of students had been under her. How could she do something like destroying the world? How could she avoid it? Back then the heaven-supporting pillar was no match for the mortal world. A lifetime of helplessness and 3 lifetimes of tears. A lifetime of heroes and bitterly disappointed. The power of public opinion was so powerless. Public opinion. Zhou Xiaoduo's eyes flashed. It's just a knife. If others can use it, so can I. He took out his phone and called Fang Yinhua. On the other side of the phone, Fang Yinhua was a little confused. I don't know about this, young master. If you have such an organization, let me threaten the management and make them obedient. I can do it. But if you want me to do it, I really can't. Then you pay for it. When I'm done with the trial, I'll start it. Okay. After returning to the villa, he practiced his hammer for a while in the space of the Tower of Annihilation. He had absorbed more than 30 pieces of high-grade Astral Soul's jade. He felt that he was about to reach the point where he could suppress it. He was only short of 1 piece. He continued to practice his hammer. After about an hour, Li Chenglong came back. Zong, do you have any ideas about setting up a company to control the public opinion on the internet and guide the direction? Zhou Xiaoduo asked. Li Chenglong said, Boss, we don't need a company. As long as we have the money and find the people, we can do it. Oh, you know? A little. Zong was a little smug. Then, I'll leave this matter to you. Zhou Xiaoduo said solemnly, no matter what, you have to have the right to speak in this aspect. When the trial is over, we'll work on it. Li Chenglong's expression became serious. Zhua, think about it carefully. This is a taboo. Zhua Xiaoduo looked at him from the corner of his eyes. We'll talk about it after the trial. Li Chenglong was instantly terrified. The trial is starting tomorrow. I've brought your trial token. Li Chenglong said. There are 2 buttons on this token. When you start, you have to press the bottom button. Every time you hit a star beast, you have to press the top button. When you come out, the number recorded here has to match the number of star beasts you have. This is to prevent cheating. Finally, the ranking will be based on the number and quality of the star beast scores. Still very simple. Zhua Xiaoduo did not think much of it. That's all? This time, it's based on individual counts. Li Chenglong said, in other words, each person can only record the result of one person. The luck factor involved will increase a lot. Some people will encounter more star beasts, while others will encounter less. Li Chenglong said, if you want to take the top 3 this time. It's still quite difficult, Zhua. Zhua Xiaoduo blinked and said, can you snatch others' results? Snatch? Li Chenglong's voice changed. Chapter 423. Li Chenglong immediately shook his head like a rattle drum. It definitely won't work. This task tracker will be transmitted back to the school's central computer, as long as you press it. Even if you steal someone else's star beast, as long as the number doesn't match, wouldn't it be meaningless? Can't I just grab it and press mine? Won't it be fine if mine matches? Zhua Xiaoduo asked curiously, why do you care if others match? Li Chenglong's head suddenly felt a little dizzy. He inexplicably felt that what Zhua Xiaoduo said seemed to make some sense. I still don't think it's possible. The consequences of robbing others are very serious. Although it's nominally for us to go out and train ourselves, there will definitely be teachers following us in the sky or in other hidden places. If we're caught red-handed. Li Chenglong's heart wavered for a moment before he regained his clarity of mind. Swollen, you're really evil. You can even think of such a method. Zhua Xiaoduo said disdainfully, you actually want to rob others. Why don't you go to heaven? Let me tell you, you have to be righteous. Li Chenglong was dumbfounded. Then, he saw Wen Xingtian walk in from the door and hit Zhua Xiaoduo's head angrily. Do you think your form teacher is deaf? You saw me coming and immediately tried to frame Li Chenglong? If Li Chenglong had such crooked thoughts, I would be relieved. Zhua Xiaoduo covered his head with a painful expression. How many times have you done it now? Wen Xingtian asked. I'll start the 9th time soon, Zhua Xiaoduo said. Then, he said in distress, it's almost halfway. The 9th time soon? Wen Xingtian suddenly felt that his ears were damaged. He coughed and said, you still need to work harder. Li Chenglong said, I also started my first compression. The process was really painful. During this period of time, Swollen had been practicing martial arts with Zhua Xiaoduo, and his progress was also very fast. As the 2 of them were in close contact for a long time, he increasingly felt that the cold qi in his body was about to be completely dissolved. However, it was also because of this that he was slightly dissatisfied with Zhua Xiaoduo's elusive behavior in the past 2 days. He couldn't even lean on his back when he was training. You guys can't relax, the others are fighting with their lives on the line. When Xingtian warned, it's not just the people in our class who are working hard. The people in the other classes are also working hard. Both of you have the same starting point. With your current level, the help that I can give you can also be given by other teachers. Some are even more attentive than I am. Don't make me lose face in the freshman competition that's a month old. Zhua Xiaoduo promised confidently, Teacher 1, don't worry. No matter what, we have to make you go up the wall naked and show your face. Ha! Li Chenglong couldn't help but burst out laughing while holding his stomach. When Xingtian's face turned from sunny to gloomy. That night he gave Zhua Xiaoduo a fierce training session. When Xingtian left at 9 o'clock. Tonight, he still had to visit the other students to confirm everyone's condition. Gather at school early tomorrow and we'll set off together. Zhua Xiaoduo and Li Chenglong lay on the ground and panted. They were exhausted. After a long while, Zhua Xiaoduo got up and murmured, Teacher Wen has been suppressing my critical point all this time. Teacher Wen's control is really strong. When Xingtian forced Zhua Xiaoduo to use all his trump cards with only 3 moves, Then, he continued to exert pressure on his critical point and bombarded it for an hour. Zhuoxiaoduo's legs were weak and his waist was sore. He felt that something was wrong everywhere, but he was sweating to his heart's content. Li Chenglong naturally knew more about Zhuoxiaoduo's movements than the others. You deliberately waited for me instead of practicing in the afternoon. Is there something else? Yes, and it's a very important matter. Zhuoxiaoduo took out a piece of paper. There are 5 phone numbers on this. They're all abandoned long ago, but that's not important. I know you have a photographic memory, and you're very good at this. Check these 5 numbers. Find out which segment they belong to and which city they belong to. You just have to determine which segment of the city they were in when they were used. Also, this is the account where the money was transferred. Check it too. Although there's not much hope. Li Chenglong pondered and took it. I'll try. It shouldn't be difficult. Okay. They're related to the murder of Principal Sure. They're the only clues we have now. Or maybe they can't be considered clues. Understood. Li Chenglong was suddenly energized. I'll go up and compress my current realm. Zhuoxiaoduo reminded him, swollen. You're starting to compress your realm too. It's best if you use the high-grade jade of astral souls to channel your meridians. It'll help you get twice the result with half the effort. I only have a few pieces of high-grade jade of astral souls. Li Chenglong's face immediately turned bitter. I'll give you 1,000 first, Zhuoxiaoduo said. Thank you, boss. Li Chenglong was instantly excited. 1,000 pieces of high-grade jade of astral souls was enough. You're welcome. When we go on a mission together, I'll deduct it from your harvest. I heard that high-grade jade of astral souls is relatively expensive in Fenghai. It's almost as expensive as high-grade jade of astral souls in other places. Just give me the change according to the market price, and I won't charge you any interest. Is that good enough? Zhuoxiaoduo said and disappeared. Li Chenglong's jaw dropped. He knew that this guy was up to something. As expected, Li Chenglong wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He had a premonition that he would have to repay this debt. If a certain someone kept repeating his words and added interest, he might not be able to repay it in this lifetime. The market price of 1,000 pieces of high-grade jade of astral souls. It was not just a sky-high price, it was a price that cost his life. However, Swollen was also an open-minded person. He quickly calmed down. If he couldn't repay it, why did he have to? The more he owed, the more he felt at ease. Hang on. Zhuoxiaoduo, if you have the ability, come and collect the debt. I don't have money, but I do have a life. Li Chenglong turned on his computer and immersed himself in the internet. He continued to issue orders and began to investigate the numbers that had long been abandoned. As long as they existed, there must be traces to follow. Zhuoxiaoduo went upstairs and continued to absorb the jade of astral souls. Then he began the 9th compression. Almost. I've reached 4/10 of the place. After the intense pain, Zhuoxiaoduo felt weak all over. He only hoped that he could quickly complete the compression until he couldn't compress anymore. When he couldn't control the breakthrough, he would quickly break through the embryonic breathing realm and end this damn thorny path. Each compression was more painful than the last. Even if he was really stupid, he still couldn't bear it. It was only the 9th time, but Zhuoxiaoduo already felt that he couldn't bear it anymore. Everything is to suppress Nian Nian cat. I have to work hard. I have to risk my life. I want it. Now this was the only thought that supported him. The next morning, Li Chenglong was still in his dream when Zhuoxiaoduo pulled him up. At this moment the sky was still dark. So early. Li Chenglong had been busy until late yesterday. He was exhausted and wanted to sleep more. Don't sleep. Let's go now. Zhuoxiaoduo wouldn't say that he had been tormented by Xiaolong for the whole night. It was strange. These days Xiaolong would come punctually every night, or more accurately, as soon as Zhuoxiaoduo fell asleep, and pester Zhuoxiaoduo. Play with me. Zhuoxiaoduo was annoyed beyond words. If it wasn't for the fact that he had been in contact with Li Zhongming for a long time and had a considerable resistance to dreams, Zhuoxiaoduo wouldn't have been able to deal with it. But now the situation was different. After Xiaolong arrived, Zhuoxiaoduo began to mutter, "This is a dream, this is a dream." Then he successfully dispelled it. Xiaolong didn't have any other desire. But it pestered Zhuo Xiaoduo for luck points. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo regarded luck points as important as his life. How could he give it away so easily? Oh, I worked hard to read people's fortune and earned some points. Then I gave them to you in my dreams at night? What benefits did you give me? You didn't give me anything. It was like this every time. Give me that. Then what did you give me? I'm so poor. I'm dreaming. Xiaolong was also extremely miserable now. Zhuo Xiaoduo didn't give him a chance to speak at all. Every time he spoke, Zhuo Xiaoduo began to say, I'm dreaming. I haven't finished speaking. Every time I just say the opening line, I'm so poor. And you expel me. You don't even listen to me. How do you know that I can't give you any benefits? This good brother of his was a huge disappointment to the dragon. Those numbers 4 are in Shangjing and 1 is in Fenghai. Fenghai is the number assigned to North City. As for the 4 numbers in Shangjing, 3 are in the East City District, and 1 is in the Central City District. Is there anything else? These 5 numbers have only been used once. They're new, so they'll be thrown away after 1 use. The IDs found are useless. They're all ordinary people's. They're fake. Anything else? The call in the Central City District of Shangjing was longer, but it didn't exceed a minute. Anything else? I can't find anything else. Then why don't you estimate, if you were the one doing this, where would you be from? Zhuo Xiaoduo asked. I'm from Shangjing. Zhuo Xiaoduo nodded. Putting himself in Xiaolong's shoes, if he was the one doing it, it would be more likely that he was from Shangjing. Anything else? This time there's really nothing else. In other words, the person who framed Vice President Shi Yunfeng was from Shangjing? Zhuo Xiaoduo's eyes flashed. Not completely, but more than 60% sure, Li Chenglong said cautiously. This is Director Sun's phone number and his home phone number. Find a way to secretly monitor it and see if you can capture it. Okay, Li Chenglong said. You can also find out if President Shi had any enemies in Shangjing back then. This possibility is too small. Moreover, it will lead to the wrong direction. Zhuo Xiaoduo shook his head. He had thought of this possibility countless times. However, President Shi's incident back then was too tragic and despicable. If the big families in Shangjing were his enemies, doing this would expose them. Investigating from this side might not yield much. Moreover, if the direction was off, it would really be like a stone sinking into the sea. These few days have been really tiring. I have to complete the grocery shopping mission today. Chapter 424. Take it slow. We can't rush this. Yes, it's been so many years. We've just made contact, and we want to find out something? That's too whimsical. Yes, but now that we have these numbers, it's still a small gain. I just hope that they'll call as soon as possible. Not necessarily. Yes. What about the accounts to transfer the money? Private accounts. They're all ordinary people's accounts and they change every time. It's meaningless. The other party has a tight grasp on these aspects. Sigh. 5 o'clock in the morning. All the students had gathered. Is everyone ready? Everything is ready. Weapons, food, and drinks. Everything is ready. Let's go. Wen Xingtian waved his hand. Wait. Zhuo Xiaoduo took a step forward with a smile on his face. Teacher Wen, give me 2 minutes. I have a few words to say. Wen Xingtian narrowed his eyes. Kid, do you want to be a homeroom teacher? Speak. Zhuo Xiaoduo stepped out of the line and stood in front of the class, his back ramrod straight. Let's go. I'll also say a few words from the bottom of my heart. Due to Zhuo Xiaoduo's rare serious expression, the faces of the students also became serious. Thank you for your praise. I, Zhuo Xiaoduo, will take on the great and honorable position of Class 1's class monitor. Although this trial is nominally to give everyone contribution points at the end of the day, it's actually related to the issue of ranking. We're the first grade's Class 1, the so-called seed class. We're the focus of the entire school. Therefore, in this trial, everyone must give it your all. If anyone drags us down, don't blame me for not helping you fight back if someone else steals your table in the cafeteria. Was this a blatant threat? Other than Li Chenglong, the 34 students were speechless. This class monitor was really well. Li Chenglong wasn't speechless because he knew that this wasn't a threat. This was reality. Zhuo Duo would really take action. Next, I'll make a few requests. First, the overall score must be from Class 1. Second, the top 3 must also be from Class 1. Zhuo Duo paused and said, "Is there a problem?" "No problem." All the students shouted together. "Good. How ambitious." Third, Teacher 1 is very lenient about the top 10. It's enough to keep 7 spots. But my request is that the top 10 must also be from our class. Since Class 1, Class 1, Class 1's Class 1, Class 1's Class 1, Class 1, if we win, we'll win, no flaws. Everyone aims to washes us for a full month. As dirty socks for a full month, no one is allowed to hold back. Do you understand? This time, he had to bring Li Chenglong along. The 35 students in Class 1 were silent. It wasn't enough to take the top 10 places but the top 36 as well? Even Teacher 1 didn't dare to think this way. What did he mean by a perfect win? Was there such a thing as a perfect win? When Xingtian kept nodding. He was very pleased. It was the right choice to let Zhuo Duo be the class monitor. Although this condition was a little harsh, it was bound to greatly improve everyone's morale. After all, no one was willing to wash someone else's socks for a full month. I know that all of you are not confident. Zhuo Duo smiled and said, "Don't worry. I dared to propose this because I'm quite confident and have thought of a feasible way for everyone. Next, I'll call the roll. Everyone, come to me to receive the strongest support for this trip." As he said that, he began to call the roll. Li Chenglong. Here. Swollen didn't have any doubts. He took a thin envelope from Zhuo Duo and returned to his original position. Xiang Cheng. Here. Ming Zhongjun. Here. Hao Han. Here. Da. Bing Dan. Shda. Xiang Bing's eyes were spitting fire. He drew his saber with a whoosh. Xiang Bing. Here. All 35 envelopes were distributed. However, this time, even when Xingtian was curious, what was in the envelopes? How could it be the strongest support? The things in the envelopes are very simple. It's the plan I'm giving you. Zhuo Duo chuckled and his body suddenly became less straight. He used a sincere tone and said, "We're all classmates, how can I just watch you guys get surpassed? So I thought of a way in advance for everyone. Last night, I thought of a brilliant plan all night." Everyone in the class was confused, including the class teacher Wen Xingtian. As you all know, I introduced myself at the beginning of the semester. I'm the most skilled in divination, second in wealth, and last in cultivation. Zhuo Duo said proudly, "Just for this experience, I've helped each of you with a divination. The plan in the envelopes is from me. It's the most suitable location for your face and fate. As long as you follow the directions in the envelopes, you'll definitely return with a full load. You'll be rich." Hearing this, the students in the class were speechless again. Looking at the envelopes in their hands, they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That's it? The strongest support. When Xingtian almost couldn't catch his breath. You wanted to say a few words, but your real purpose was this. If you have any doubts, you can ask Li Chenglong. When have I been wrong? I've been wrong. Zhuo Duo said loudly, however, divination can't be taught easily, and divination can't be seen for free. Last night, I peeked into the secrets of heaven and lost a lot of energy. Now I can't prove it with words. Based on the profits of this operation, if my divination is accurate and you don't fall out of the 36th place, and the profits are satisfactory, the person involved will have to give me 10,000 yuan. How about it? There was silence. Everyone looked at him as if they were looking at a fool. You want to charge 350,000 yuan just for this? Do you think we're fools? I can consider 5,000 yuan. Zhuo Duo laughed dryly. More and more people were silent. If there were people who believed a little just now that they heard the person involved take the initiative to lower the price, they wouldn't believe it. 2,000. With a muffled sound, Zhuo Duo was kicked back by Wen Xingtian. Wen Xingtian's face was ashen. He said sternly, "Let's go." He took the lead and left. Zhuo Duo was still chattering behind him. It's really accurate. Li Chenglong covered Zhuo Duo's mouth from behind. "Boss, true knowledge comes from practice. If it's effective, we'll pay for it. Why are you devaluing yourself?" You're really not cut out for business. The students were in an uproar. Li Chenglong was indeed Zhuo Xiaoduo's sidekick. The two of them were the same kind of people. When Xingtian quickened his pace, Zhuo Xiaoduo and Li Chenglong hurried to catch up. The group of people broke through the morning fog like sharp arrows. From afar, in another direction, there were also long dragons. One after another, they soared into the sky and broke through the fog, flying out of the city. The Hidden Dragon High School's 24 new classes had all set off for the training ground. Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing walked side by side with Li Chenglong, who had caught up. When they saw Li Chenglong carefully put away the envelope, they couldn't help but ask, "Swollen, the class monitor is playing tricks. Why are you following him?" Everyone saw it. There's no point in pretending. Li Chenglong snorted and said, "If you don't believe me, you don't have to do it. Anyway, you're the ones who will lose. Boss is just kind and wants to pull you guys along. If I had his ability, I would definitely hide. He actually called me Swollen. Li Chenglong missed Long Yusheng, Wan Lixiu, Li Changming, Yu Moyan and the others. Although he was getting closer to Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing, he still felt uncomfortable being called Swollen. As long as he recalled the scene of Zhuo Xiaoduo, Long Yusheng and the others calling him Swollen, he would feel happy. Perhaps this was the difference. Seeing that Xiang Chong was still half believing and half doubting, Li Chenglong snorted and said, "You guys are just short-sighted. When class monitor Zhuo was in Phoenix City, the average price he charged for fortune-telling was 200,000. It was nothing. Some rich people who went to get their fortunes told would spend at least $1 million just to ask him for a few words." "Really?" Xiang Bing asked in shock. "I don't want to argue with you guys now. Real knowledge comes from practice. Let the facts speak for themselves." Li Chenglong rolled his eyes. "How dare you say that I'm flattering you? We've been classmates for a while now. Have you and your sister ever seen me say a single lie or exaggeration?" The brother and sister were a little dumbfounded. For a moment they didn't know how to react. "What should I say? Let's talk about a few days ago. Our principal Yi also asked class monitor Zhuo for fortune-telling." "Humph?" Li Chenglong looked around sneakily and lowered his voice. "Also, why did Grandmusher grab Zhuo Xiaoduo and leave after snatching the table that time? She must have asked him for fortune-telling." Li Chenglong expected better from them. "You guys obviously took advantage of him and thought that he did something to you. Really? You don't know how lucky you are." At this point, Meng Zhongjun, Hao Han and a few others suddenly left the group like arrows and ran back the way they came. They only left one sentence. "Why didn't you say so earlier when you threw it away?" Before they finished speaking, they were already gone. It turned out that these people didn't believe Zhuo Xiaoduo's words at all, and had already thrown the envelope away. Li Chenglong tilted his head and looked proud. "Why should I tell you? I just like to see you guys run back to get it when you're tired like dogs." There were another 4 or 5 people who ran back together with him. Xiang Bing and Xiang Chong immediately tightened their grip on the envelope in their hands. They still felt unsafe and quickly put it into their space rings. Then the rest of the way turned into Li Chenglong's science talk show. It was a talk show that talked about Master Zhuo's great achievements. Zhuo was known as Master Zhuo back in Phoenix City. Blah blah. Li Chenglong's saliva flew everywhere. Like that person. Or that person. Chapter 425. Li Chenglong knew quite a lot. He told them one by one, and they were all legendary stories. Between the lines, it was as if he was a heavenly fortune teller. He was like a living immortal in the mortal world. "I'll tell you one thing. If there's anything you don't understand, if there's anything you don't understand, if there's something you don't like, if there's trouble in your family, if your ancestral graves don't match, if you're always unlucky, marriage, future, fate, life and death situations being framed by others, etc. everything," Li Chenglong said resolutely, "you can look for Zhuo for guidance. We're all classmates, so I don't think Zhuo will take you in too much. It's fine as long as you're okay with it. But you have to seize the opportunity. Zhuo is very busy. After graduation, you won't be together anymore. At that time, it'll be difficult to find Zhuo again. A person's identity, position, and social status all change with time, place, and environment. Once the wind and clouds turn into a dragon, the past is the present, and the present is not." Xiang Bing, Xiang Chong, and the others all agreed. When Xingtian, who was at the front, heard every word. For a moment he only felt a stomach full of complaints. This was Xiaoduo. He actually brought a hairdryer with him when he went to school. There's no limit to how much he can blow. Li Chenglong kept blowing, and it was as if he was in the clouds. Zhou Xiaoduo, who was afraid that no one would believe him at first, became calm and relaxed. With his hands behind his back, he followed beside Wen Xingtian. He had the demeanor of an immortal, and the demeanor of an expert. He was like a celestial drop from the sky, floating in the wind. There was an indescribable elegance, and an endless free and easy feeling. He looked very elegant, and his temperament was even better. Of course, the main thing was that he looked really good, so the image was naturally very good. Thick fog rolled in front of them. Under the nourishment of the spiritual energy, the morning fog was even more like the tide and the sea. It was a magnificent sight. When Xingtian led his men into the thick fog, Zhou Xiaoduo, who was beside him, suddenly burst into laughter. With his hands behind his back, Zhou Xiaoduo flew in after him, his clothes fluttering in the wind. He recited, "I was originally an immortal banished from the 9 heavens, dancing in the clouds above the clouds. Today I stepped into the mundane world, and my hands touched the mortal world. With a glance I saw through the 3 lives of people, and with a word I understood all the people in the world. If you want to know where the mysteries of heaven are, you must look for Master Zhou." Cough, cough, cough. When Xingtian coughed for a while, his breathing was muddy. He fell down 300 jangs from the sky before he flew back up. With a dark face he scolded, "Shut up." Zhou Xiaoduo was startled, so he kept his hands behind his back without saying a word and continued to fly. They did not encounter a single person along the way. Not even a single divine sense was detected. The students of the Hidden Dragon High School were training, and a large number of teachers were accompanying them. The atmosphere was earth-shattering, and no one in the city dared to breathe loudly. It was said that there was a martial artist in the past who muttered, "What's there to be proud of?" The vice principal went out to whore. Is it glorious? In the end, the teacher in charge of the Hidden Dragon High School team flew down and caught him. After asking about the power he belonged to, he went straight to the door. For ordinary people we can let them go and we can't. But for martial artists we need to come up with an explanation. In the end, all the members of this gang were caught and interrogated. And the people who led the team that year were Wen Xingtian and Zhang Xiaofei. After finding out that there were other crimes, these 2 people directly took action and slaughtered the entire gang. From then on, any martial artist who wanted to badmouth the Hidden Dragon High School first had to find a secret place to do so. The anger of the entire Hidden Dragon High School had already reached the sky, and there was nowhere to vent it. Whoever dared to show their face would be unlucky. No one was stupid. That year, Vice Principal Shi had a student who was drinking with his colleagues at the Sun Moon Pass. A senior officer was drunk and treated the matter of the Hidden Dragon High School as a joke. In the end, all the students at the front line of the Hidden Dragon High School boycotted him. Regardless of their superiors or subordinates, they were beaten up dozens of times a day. After that, Commander Dongfang directly gave the order to dismiss him and expel him from the army. Commander Dongfang only said one sentence. "Even if you went to whore with your cloud transformation realm cultivation, what prostitute in this world could resist you? Even if you were at the inner core realm, you could no longer find ordinary people to vent your desires. It's fine if people who don't know the truth say it, but you, a high-level martial artist, actually said it. That means you did it intentionally. You don't respect heroes, and you don't deserve to serve in our army. If not for the military rules and regulations, I would have killed you with my own hands." That was what Marshal Dongfang had said. He hadn't changed a single word. Everyone went out of the city. A boundary separated the 2 sides. The inner side was calm and peaceful, and that was Fenghai City. Outside, meteors fell from the sky and pits were everywhere. It was like the battlefield of the technological era a long time ago, when thousands of cannons were fired at the same time, and the earth was filled with smoke. From the moment we leave the city, the curtains of this trial will be drawn. When Xingtian waited for everyone to finish lining up, he said, "Now, turn on all the trial communicators and check if they are normal." All of them were turned on. Immediately, the red dots on their wrists kept flashing. I have already told you the relevant rules more than once. When you successfully hunt prey, this communicator will automatically record and take a picture. Then press the button on it, and the school will receive your message. When the time comes, take your harvest back to the school to count it. When the numbers are correct, the final result will be calculated. When Xingtian said this, he deliberately glanced at Shuoduo. There is no possibility of robbery. Master Zhuo's expression did not change. He stood with his hands behind his back, tall and slender, and continued to maintain his calm and sage-like temperament. He was indifferent, as if it had nothing to do with him. When the prey is found, it is naturally possible for 2 or more people to find it together. When Xingtian sighed heavily and said, "At that time, you have to pay attention to your actions. You can compete with each other, but you can't harm your own people. Everyone's communicators will be recording and taking pictures together. Once you are found to have violated the rules, you will be immediately expelled from the Hidden Dragon Academy." Shuoduo's eyes shone brightly and said, "We can still compete? Put away your bad ideas." When Xingtian scolded loudly, "Oh!" Shuoduo lowered his head in shame. Suddenly there was laughter from the group. There is no such thing as a designated area. You can go through the entire outskirts. As long as you are strong enough, you will naturally be able to get more rewards. Why limit your vision to the rewards of others? But you have to be careful. You have to have at least a star beast in the embryonic breathing realm to get points. After the ranking, the prey that you have obtained will be handed over to the school. It will become the source of your first credits in the school. When Xingtian looked at his watch and said, "The duration of this practical experience is 3 days. The rewards of these 3 days will at least be enough credits for the next half a month. After this, the new students are not allowed to come out for practical experience until the end of the month. At the beginning of next month, the freshman competition will begin. The second practical experience will only be held 10 days after the competition. For the remaining half a month of the freshman period, you will consume resources but not credits. However, from the 1st of next month onwards, all related resources, including food and drinks, will have to be exchanged with credits. Do you remember?" When Xingtian emphasized, "You have to save at least half a month's worth of living and practicing necessities. Otherwise, you will have to consume the storage in your space ring. However, that will be a very embarrassing thing in the Hidden Dragon High School. Do you remember everything?" The overall commander in charge of this practical experience was the vice president of the Hidden Dragon High School, Xiang Quangren. In the morning fog, an extremely burly figure could be seen crossing the morning fog and appearing in midair. "Everyone gather." The other classes, including Shuoduo's class, all gathered in that direction. However, at this moment Shuoduo saw the facial features of Xiangchong and Xiangbing. His expression suddenly changed. Black chi rushed to the sky. A great calamity of life and death. Shuoduo's heart thumped. It wasn't there when they set off just now. Why was it there now? He moved closer to Li Chenglong and said, "What did Xiangchong and Xiangbing say?" Li Chenglong said, "They said that they will act according to the instructions in the brocade pouch." Shuoduo frowned. "Something is wrong." Li Chenglong, "I just bragged to you. How is it wrong? Don't slap me in the face so soon." Shuoduo didn't say anything. He just caught up with the team with a sullen face. He chased after Xiangchong and Xiangbing and said in a low voice, "Now listen to me. Don't say a word." Xiangchong and Xiangbing were both stunned, but they cooperated and listened quietly. "When you get out of the city, you two will temporarily split up and immediately go to the 11 o'clock direction. You must do as I say." Shuoduo's voice was very urgent. "Why?" Xiangbing's face was full of confusion. "This time we are acting alone. We can't act together." Xiangchong, however, looked thoughtful. "Now listen to me." Shuoduo growled and then whispered, "Think about Vice President Cheng's family affairs. If you two want to follow in his footsteps, then do it." Their faces changed color and they were stunned on the spot. "Your great-grandfather's reappearance this time is too forceful, and has already greatly affected the other party's interests. Just now in the morning I saw that there was nothing wrong with your faces, but now your faces are filled with a dark aura. An unforeseen event in an instant, and the aura has changed greatly, mainly due to the interference of a powerful external factor, which is the so-called sudden change. In other words, the other party decided to act at the last moment. Zhou Xiaoduo said, I think it's very likely that because the theme of this training is based on individuals, the other party wants to make a move when you two are alone and use you two to attack your great-grandfather. I have to say, this is really a heaven-sent opportunity for them. Think about it. Your great-grandfather is the person in charge of this experiential learning. But his great-grandchildren have an accident. Who should be responsible for this? How is this going to end? Once it happens, the Xiang family will not only have to die before their children, but also have to bear the joint responsibility. Xiang Bing's pretty face turned pale. That year, Vice President Cheng's family affairs were so nasty that everyone who knew about it cursed. Now someone wanted to use such a method to deal with her. Chapter 426. But it's okay. This time, the teacher of Hidden Dragon High School has sealed the whole area with a chain of qi. All cultivators above the nascent soul stage cannot enter the chain of qi. Once they enter, they will be discovered. Then, the cultivation of those who want to do this is at most below the nascent soul stage. Zhou Xiaoduo said, as long as you remember what I said, after leaving the city, split up first, and then immediately go to the 11 o'clock direction and meet with me, you will be safe. Understood. Remember not to make a fuss first, so as not to alert the enemy. I will go and report to Teacher Wen first. The so-called God-given opportunity may not be their only opportunity. Zhou Xiaoduo whispered, keep your face natural. Don't let the enemy give up this operation. Both of them smiled dryly. Back then, Vice Principal Cheng's granddaughter was raped and killed, and his grandson was killed. Such a tragic fate was vivid in his mind. Now there was someone who had such a bad idea about him and was about to take action. How could he relax? Zhou Xiaoduo did not have a better idea at this time. Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing were not the kind of people who could be easily manipulated. On the contrary, they were the kind of people who had their own ideas. If he didn't say that he had broken through the middle gate, the two of them would definitely not listen. Zhou Xiaoduo was confident about this. Xiang Quangren was speaking from above. Zhou Xiaoduo quietly came to Wen Xingtian and pulled Wen Xingtian's sleeve. Wen Xingtian turned his head. Seeing Zhou Xiaoduo's face was unprecedentedly serious and even had a look of vigilance, Wen Xingtian's heart suddenly jumped. What's the matter? Wen Xingtian asked in a low voice as he followed Zhou Xiaoduo out a few steps. Teacher Wen, if you trust me, please shield the surroundings. I am not in the nascent soul stage, so I can't transmit my voice, Zhou Xiaoduo said. Without thinking, Wen Xingtian immediately set up a barrier and said, Speak. I just saw the change in Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing's faces. A great disaster is coming. Teacher Wen, do you believe that I can read people's faces? Zhou Xiaoduo asked. Wen Xingtian's eyes were deep as he said, I do. Firstly, Yi Chongqing had once asked Zhou Xiaoduo to look at his fortune and give him pointers. This was something that Yi Chongqing had told Wen Xingtian before. Secondly, Grandma Sure had kidnapped Zhou Xiaoduo right in front of Wen Xingtian. Wen Xingtian was naturally well aware of the truth behind it. For Wen Xingtian, even if he did not fully believe in Zhou Xiaoduo's ability, he was at least 70 to 80% convinced. And there was Zhou Xiaoduo's expression was unprecedentedly serious. What he was about to say was not something that could be easily dealt with. He would rather believe it than not. The Hidden Dragon High School could not afford to have such a thing happen again. The situation is actually very simple. It's just that Vice Principal Xiang's sudden recovery this time has affected the fundamental interests of some people. Zhou Xiaoduo said, I just saw Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing's faces. It's very ominous. A great disaster is coming. So I was thinking, could it be those people? They want to use the method that they used to deal with Vice Principal Chang. As soon as he said this, Wen Xingtian's eyes suddenly turned blood red. He said coldly, What did you say? Calm down. Zhou Xiaoduo immediately reminded him. Damn it. Wen Xingtian's emotions slowly recovered, but his eyes were still shining. The tragedy of Vice Principal Cheng's family could be said to be the biggest pain in the entire Hidden Dragon High School. An obedient girl in her prime was raped and killed, and her body was left naked on the street. A promising young man was seriously injured and died in the mouth of a star beast. Such a despicable method, was it going to appear again today? Because of the convenience of insightful insight, we were on guard. Coupled with the chi sealing of many teachers in the Hidden Dragon High School, cultivators above nascent soul can't come in silently. Those who can come in are below nascent soul. I've already told Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing to meet me at 11 o'clock after they enter. As long as the person's strength is not above nascent soul, I think I can still resist a wave of attacks. But Teacher 1, you can't show off now. If you act now, it will only make the other party give up on the established plan. When Xingtian nodded silently, this sentence was not wrong at all. Actually, I hope that this time we can catch them alive. Zhou Xiaoduo said, if I'm not wrong, it should be related to the tragedy of Vice Principal Cheng's family. At the very least, it should be related to one of the 5 principals. This is inevitable. In fact, the other party chose the perfect time. If it wasn't for my accidental intervention, this tragedy would have been inevitable. I understand. When Xingtian took a deep breath. In other words, you can't act rashly. Zhou Xiaoduo said, give me a way to contact you immediately. Immediately. When Xingtian frowned and took out a piece of low-grade jade of astral souls. He said, can you crush this? It's a piece of cake. That's good. When Xingtian was still a little worried. He first crushed a few cracks on the low-grade jade of astral souls, and then used his power to bind a trace of divine soul power on it. Crush this. I'll be there as soon as possible. Okay. Zhou Xiaoduo carefully put it away. He thought about it and still felt uneasy. He said, Teacher 1, I can't expose this matter. If people find out about this ability of mine. I shouldn't have sent the letter this morning. This isn't Phoenix City after all. I shouldn't be so high profile. You're just a bastard who can't even hold 2 tails of sesame oil in your stomach. Who do you think I did that for in the morning? When Xingtian said angrily, if you don't show off your ability, you'll be itchy all day. Get lost. Leave this to me. Okay. Zhou Xiaoduo said, one last thing. Don't let Vice Principal Xiang know about this before we return to school. I think this Vice Principal has a bad temper. This kind of person can do things, but also, it's fine as long as you understand. When Xingtian smiled faintly and kicked Zhou Xiaoduo's butt. Get lost. Vice Principal Xiang is much more shrewd than you. Do you really think a boorish man can be the Vice Principal of Hidden Dragon University? Zhou Xiaoduo laughed dryly and hurriedly returned to the team. He slapped himself in the face for saying that last sentence. Teacher 1 was right. I was too one-sided in thinking about things. Zhou Xiaoduo, why do you always look down on the heroes of the world? On the other side, Xiang Quangren had finished his speech. However, when he saw that when Xingtian had set up a barrier to speak, he did not immediately give the order. He pretended to be silent for a minute. Seeing that the two of them had separated, Xiang Quangren ordered, let's go. The barrier suddenly opened up. Zhou Xiaoduo's Class 1 was at the front, when Xingtian was the first to fly out, followed by the 36 people of Class 1, one after another. Then Class 2 and Class 3. As soon as the class teachers of the 24 classes went out, they immediately moved in different directions. They all turned into streams of light and went to their assigned areas to guard. Xiang Quangren stayed at the back. When Xingtian's voice was still in his ears, stay here and don't go in. Xiang Quangren scratched his head and thought, what the hell? However, since when Xingtian said so, there must be a reason, and it was very likely to be a major reason. Xiang Quangren was guessing in his heart, but the expression on his face did not change. He stood at the boundary with his hands behind his back, turned around and shouted, go get me some wine and some dishes. I'm going to be bored to death waiting like this for a day. The people around him laughed and someone immediately went to do it. Xiang Quangren sat cross-legged with his head lowered, as if he was taking a nap. However, no one saw that his eyes were full of murderous intent. When Xingtian must have found something, since he specifically reminded me, then the subsequent changes are most likely related to me. I just came out of seclusion and made a scene in Hidden Dragon University. Yes. One of my great-grandsons and one of my great-granddaughters went out for the trial today. When Xiang Quangren thought of this, a little realization came to his mind. and he almost could not suppress the surging murderous intent in his heart. He hurriedly circulated his internal energy and calmed himself down. Then he took deep breaths of air. No, I have to stay calm. I have to believe in Wen Xingtian, Xiang Kuangren kept suppressing his emotions. However, how could he really be at ease when he had already thought of the trial? He could not help but feel a little anxious. He raised his head and said, "Why aren't the dishes here yet?" On the other side, Zuo was the first to fly out like a meteor. He laughed loudly and kicked away a stone of astral souls that fell from the sky. Then his body was like a ray of light, rushing forward like lightning. Li Chenglong and the others also followed the directions given by Zuo and scattered in all directions. Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing looked at each other and rushed forward from the left and right respectively. Zuo's speed was like lightning. Along the way, as long as he found a star beast, he would throw a hidden weapon at it. In less than half a cup of tea's time, he had already shot out 17 small bottle gourds. At the same time, his hand also pressed 17 buttons on the communication device. His body flew past, and the 17 embryonic breathing realm star beasts were all caught by him and thrown into the space ring. In the ring, the dragon blood flying dagger was already erected on the other side. The star beasts that were thrown in were basically in a half-dead state and only had one breath left. When the dragon blood flying dagger slashed across their stomachs, the injury was not serious. The slash only took away 1/3 of the energy of the star beast's body. It did not destroy the integrity of the star beast's body, but its appearance was greatly reduced. With the increase of his cultivation, the power of the hidden weapons that Zuo released had also increased. The star beasts that did not have a strong outer layer of leather armor were basically dealt with by a small bottle gourd. They were seriously injured without exception. Zuo rushed out more than 20 miles in one breath like a hurricane. Yes, these 20 miles referred to the fact that he jumped back and forth in the form of the word spread. None of the embryonic breathing realm star beasts within the attack range escaped. These were all credits, and at the same time they were also the nutrients of the dragon blood flying dagger. Regarding this, Zuo would never complain about having too many credits. The more the better. He went back and forth in front of them like lightning. In the 20 miles that he walked, none of the embryonic breathing realm star beasts within a 700-meter wide range were spared. They were all captured. For a moment, the ranking screen on the school's mainframe was like a waterfall that was crazily refreshed. Zuo instantly occupied the first place in the rankings. When Xiang Chong, who was in second place, only had 18 credits, Zuo, who was in first place, had already accumulated more than 700 credits. Chapter 427. The teacher who was looking at the computer was dumbfounded. He couldn't help but curse, "Is this guy cheating? Could it be that his finger has been pressing on the trial communicator all this time? He harvested more than 700 points in less than 5 minutes. Even picking up trash and stones wouldn't be this fast, right? How could it be like this?" The unlucky ones were the students who were following behind Zuo, or those who happened to coincide with his route. They didn't know that someone was sweeping in front of them. They searched carefully but didn't even see a single bird feather. They were all dumbfounded. Why is it so fucking clean here? This can't be, right? How can one earn credits in such a place? Isn't this cheating? Maybe it'll be better if we go further. It's a coincidence. It said that it's very easy in the past. Why is it this year? Let's go forward and see. Everyone else also felt strange, so they all sped up and rushed forward. However, their journey was so clean. In the end, they simply stopped searching and rushed forward with all their might. After chasing for more than 90 kilometers, he finally saw a fellow in front of him who was leaping back and forth in a strange zigzag pattern. Everywhere he passed, the star beasts seemed to be waiting in place or jumping into his spatial ring on their own accord. How could it be so easy to harvest? However, wherever this guy passed, not even a blade of grass was left behind. The dozen or so students who saw this scene were dumbfounded. Fuck, what a waste of time. So there's a sweeper in front. I was wondering why there was nothing. His movements are too fast. We can't afford to offend him. Hurry up and change direction. Fuck, we wasted an hour of effort. We were so unlucky from the start. If we had said earlier, this guy wouldn't have come even if we were beaten to death. If we had changed our route earlier, we might have harvested earlier. Alright, who is this guy? Who else could it be? This guy is the champion of the Longhu list competition, Zuoxiao Duo. Don't think that he's harvesting star beasts like a harvester. Actually, let me tell you. He hasn't used his true abilities yet. That's the Sword King? The Sword King is indeed mighty. You've already been shaved bald, yet you're still in the mood to shout 666 here. You're too careless. Let's go, let's change our route quickly. Whether we eat or drink for the next half a month will depend on this harvest. The dozen or so students were extremely depressed. We searched for 100 miles, but we didn't even find a single strand of hair. The route is here. What a fucking loss. Sure enough, there were some gains after changing the route. However, all of them were scared. If they fell behind by an hour, wouldn't they be at the bottom of the school? Fucking Sword King. Fucking Sword King. You've caused me so much trouble. Zuoxiao Duo charged all the way. Wherever he passed, all the embryonic breathing realm star beasts within a 300-mile radius were all killed. Zuoxiao's massacre was like a bulldozer moving forward. Correspondingly, the astral beast corpses in his spatial ring had already piled up into a small mountain. The red light emitted by the dragon blood flying dagger became brighter and brighter. However, how could Zuoxiao Duo be satisfied with the gains before his eyes? The range of his activities gradually expanded. Occasionally, when he sensed a small astral beast settlement, he would directly traverse a few dozen miles horizontally to other people's areas to clean up the large number of astral beasts before returning. In the monitoring room of the Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School, on the screen Xiangchong, who was in second place, had already gained more than 300 astral beasts. It had soared to 327 in one breath. Just based on this number alone, if it had been in the previous years, he would have been the champion without a doubt. In such a short period of time, he had gained 327 astral beasts. The first place was already in the bag. However, looking at the first place in reality, a few teachers only felt depressed. They didn't even want to say anything. 9,495. No, 9,541. Fuck, it changed again. One of the teachers felt that his 3 views had been completely destroyed. It was simply, could it be that the astral beasts that this brat encountered were all half dead? But there are so many of them. How could they all be like this? 300 miles passed in a flash. In front of him a thick fog rose. Waves of fierce aura spread out from afar. If he continued forward, he would already be in the territory of the origin core realm astral beasts. However, Zuoxiao Duo didn't even think and rushed in. This time Zuoxiao Duo didn't use any hidden weapons or swords. He directly used the dragon blood flying dagger. These origin core realm astral beasts in front of him were definitely more durable than the ones in front of him. Pooh. 3 huge pythons as thick as water tanks were the first to be killed. Zuoxiao Duo killed each of them with a single slash and then threw them into his ring. However, this small movement had already alerted the surroundings. Shwa. Many more pythons appeared one after another. It was obvious that this was a gathering place of pythons. They had snow-white skin, beautiful patterns, and bright red horns on their heads. They were all early-stage origin core realm astral beasts. At a glance, there were at least a few hundred of them. A strong smell of blood assaulted his nostrils. Seeing this, Zuoxiao Duo hurriedly kept the dragon blood flying dagger. There was an introduction in the first grade of the heavens. The quality of the python meat was extremely good. After cooking, the taste was especially good. It was the best consumable in the first grade of the heavens. They had been purchasing it, but the supply still couldn't meet the demand. Also, the patterns on the python's skin were extremely beautiful. It was the favorite of the ladies in Fenghai City. If one had a piece of clothing made from the python's skin, not only would it add to the beauty, it would also be a symbol of status. However, because there was a python king in this area, it was extremely dangerous for those who didn't have enough cultivation to come here. They could easily lose their lives. However, those with higher cultivation didn't care about this little benefit. It was because of this that the rarer something was, the more valuable it was. Furthermore, this was the training area of the hidden dragon realm. Outsiders couldn't come in. These can't be recorded in the results. These are all the ways for me to make a fortune. Zhuo took out the cat spirit sword and used the drizzle sword art. Casually, silently, yet meticulously, he stabbed the python 7 inches and kept it in his spatial ring. Extremely meticulous. This was all money. Sword light flashed. At this moment, Zhuo was like a hard-working farmer who was tirelessly harvesting crops. They even started to sing. We, the common people, are so happy today. More than 500 pythons were collected by Zhuo without leaving a single one behind. Suddenly, a cloud of dust rose in the distance. 2 gigantic snow-white snakes escaped into the depths of the cloud of dust, as if they were risking their lives. They were the 2 python kings of this settlement. Seeing how ferocious Zhuo was, the snake king, whose body was as thick as 3 water tanks, didn't even have the desire to fight. The first thought that came to its mind was to run away in a panic. How could it still care about whether it could afford to provoke the star beast inside? Zhuo shouted, "Hey! My money, where do you think you're going?" He quickly chased after them. The cat spirit sword pierced through the air and pierced the python 7 inches, nailing it to the ground. The python continued to struggle, but the cat spirit sword was so sharp that the more it struggled, the more serious its injury would be. Zhuo didn't even look at the result after throwing the sword. He chased after the python king, who didn't care about its mate's life and death. With a leap, he blocked the python's path. He said disdainfully, "Is that your wife or your husband? You don't have the code of brotherhood in Jianghu. You only care about running away. You're really hateful." He casually gave the python king a crime and then punched it in the face. When the snake king saw that the god of death was at its door, it risked its life to counterattack. It swung its tail madly, but Zhuo's fist landed on its tail. Due to the impact, the tail was knocked back. Zhuo's first move was successful. He rushed forward and punched the snake's head 7 or 8 times in succession until the snake was dizzy. Only then did he lightly shatter the snake's brain. He couldn't destroy the integrity of its skin. He looked back at the other python and couldn't help but feel heartache. "Stop fighting. Fuck, I cut the skin. My money." He quickly put away the 2 python kings and took out the cat spirit sword from the python's 7 inches. He shook it in his hand and it became spotless again. Following which, he continued to search the area vertically and horizontally in search of valuable items. An hour later, Zhuo left the area and rushed to the 11 o'clock direction. Although he was rushing to his destination, he still killed all the star beasts along the way. In the area that Zhuo had wreaked havoc, no star beasts dared to live in it for half a year. They were really slaughtered too cleanly. At the 11 o'clock direction, Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing had already met up. The 2 of them followed the basic rules. They were separated by a few hundred meters and sprinted to search. They seemed to be doing their own thing, but in fact they were watching each other closely. The 2 of them were twins after all. Even if they walked together, no one would say anything. This kind of concern was only natural in the eyes of outsiders. However, along the way, the 2 of them didn't find anything noteworthy. Similarly, there were no signs of danger. With their current cultivation, they could basically fight a normal inner elixir realm practitioner. Dealing with these embryonic breathing realm star beasts was really not difficult. Xiang Bing finally took out her exclusive weapon. It was the same as Xiang Chong's, the Overlord's halberd. However, it was no wonder that Xiang Bing didn't usually take it out. As a girl, holding the Overlord's halberd in battle, the visual impact alone was already subversive. Compared to the long sword that Li Chenglong was used to, the Overlord's halberd was like an embroidery needle. The brother and sister duo rushed forward. The 2 of them rushed to the top of a hill and faced each other from a distance. They stood still with the Overlord's halberd in their hands, planning to rest for a while. With such a powerful Overlord's halberd as a weapon, its power was unparalleled. However, it also consumed a lot of energy. The 2 of them had to catch their breath. At this moment, in the forest on one side. "Wow, what a coincidence!" Zhuo laughed loudly and rushed out. "What a coincidence! You guys have also killed your way here? How was it? How was your harvest?" Chapter 428. On the other side of the dense forest, there was a pile of shrubbery that had been smashed into pieces. There was also a hole in the ground. The 5 people who were about to get up immediately lay down again. They looked at each other. Why is there another person here? Where did this guy come from? With this guy, wouldn't there be a change in this round? Not bad. Xiangcheng laughed. How about you? My harvest is average, but it's not a problem for me to get into the top 3. Zuoxiaoduo smiled heroically and rushed up the mountain in one breath. He greeted Xiangbing. Bingdan, come take a rest. I have food and drinks here, I have everything. As long as you want it, I will give it to you. Xiangbing's face was red as she rushed over with the overlord halberd. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll chop you to death. Zuoxiaoduo laughed. Then, the 3 of them spread out an oilcloth on the top of the mountain. They took a variety of dishes and ate heartily. Zuoxiaoduo even opened 2 bottles of wine. Come. Let's drink to relieve our fatigue. For a moment the aroma of wine filled the air. The 5 people in the pit in the bushes almost broke their teeth. Damn, they thought this was a cushy job. After killing Xiangcheng, the 5 of them would enjoy Xiangbing, and then leave her corpse in the wilderness. But now, the script was not going in the right direction. They were eating and drinking there, and they were at the top of the mountain looking down from above, in full view of everyone. They couldn't do anything. The 5 of them could only eat dirt in the pit. Their mentality was seriously unbalanced. After a while, he heard the 3 people's unscrupulous and boisterous conversation coming one after another. How much exactly? Xiangcheng asked. Me? I have at least 5,000 to 6,000 heads in my account. Zuoxiaoduo laughed heartily. He actually hid the number. Amazing. I'm not even close to 3,000. I'm only a little over 2,700, Xiangbing said. Come on. There's always a gap between people. Wahahaha. Zuoxiaoduo laughed smugly. But don't be careless. Xiangbing was unconvinced and said, the number of star beasts that you have harvested is definitely the number of embryonic breathing realm star beasts. I estimate that by nighttime at most, the embryonic breathing realm spiritual beasts will be wiped out. After that, it will be the real time to compete. No matter how many there are, they can't overcome the advantage of quality. Xiangbing said, as long as the others catch more primal core astral beasts, your score will not be higher than theirs. Zuoxiaoduo waved his hand. If they can do it, why can't I continue to do it? It can't be that they're the only ones doing it while we sleep leisurely, right? That's true. What do we do next? Xiangcheng asked. Bingdan was right about something just now. If we continue to hunt star beasts in the embryonic breathing realm now, there is indeed not much meaning. Zuoxiaoduo raised his wine cup and toasted her. He downed it in one gulp and said, let's rest here for a while and replenish our energy. When it's cooler in the afternoon, we will enter the primal core realm area and specifically target the primal core realm star beasts. Xiangbing frowned and said, the places where the primal core realm star beasts live are mostly areas with complicated terrains and dense fog. Usually the fog is poisonous. Won't it be dangerous to go in rashly? Zuoxiaoduo said, what are you afraid of? Xiangcheng and I are both here. When the time comes, you will be in the middle. Xiangcheng will be 300 meters to the left, and I will be 300 meters to the right. The 3 of us will take care of each other. What can happen? Even if there is an unforeseen event, we will shout a warning. The 3 of us will quickly rush out together. What danger can we not handle? Zuoxiaoduo took on the responsibility. Listen to me. It will definitely be correct. Xiangcheng and Xiangbing's eyes lit up. They said, that would be the best. The 5 people in the hole heard the strategy clearly. They could not help but look at each other. If that was the case, then it would be great. It would be best to drag it out until nighttime. It would be easier to move. Although Zuoxiaoduo and the others were discussing loudly, there was nothing suspicious. This was because the students of the Hidden Dragon High School all discussed like this. There was nothing shameful about it. Individual actions did not completely separate them from the group. Discussion was one thing. As long as you fought the star beasts alone, you could record your own results. Even if there were many people watching from the side, as long as you fought alone, it was your own gain. This was not a conflict. A few hundred meters away, there were a few pairs of students discussing as well. Their voices were also very loud. They could also hear it clearly here. This was the training ground. When the meteors in the sky were constantly smashing down, it was simply too normal. Because if your voice was too soft, your companions would not be able to hear it. As for when there was danger and unforeseen events, it was only right and reasonable for them to work together to deal with it. Under the gaze of the 5 people who looked like they were about to spit fire, the 3 of them actually started resting from 10 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. A full 7 hours passed just like that. The 5 of them could only lie down in the hole. They did not dare to move at all. They also had to guard against the falling meteors from the sky, and whether they would hit their heads or bodies. Swordsmanship and the others could casually slap the meteors away while drinking wine. However, they could not. Even if they did not take it head-on, their movements could not be too big. After 7 hours of hiding, their waists were already stiff from lying on the ground. On the hillside, the 3 people's gazes were focused on them as they drank and chatted. It was as if they were admiring the scenery. This was so fucking infuriating. Finally, the sun set in the west. The weather gradually became cooler and the night breeze blew gently. The 3 men who were drinking on the hillside also stood up one by one. Let's go. Let's go. Xiangbing, you'll be in the middle later. If anything happens, you must shout. Swordsmanship commanded on the spot. Okay. The 5 people below were so angry that their stomachs swelled. This brat is here to make things more difficult for us, isn't he? But it doesn't matter. Since you insist on coming, we'll take care of you as well. Even if you're the champion of the Dragon and Tiger ranking tournament, how talented are you? After all, you've only entered the Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts Academy for a few days. How much cultivation can you have? In front of an absolute difference in cultivation level, you're still a little brother. Straight ahead. Don't go astray, Swordsmanship reminded again as if he was worried. I understand, Xiangbing nodded. Roar! Swordsmanship let out a strange cry and took the lead to rush down the hillside. Xiangchong and Xiangbing also jumped up and left the hilltop. After a long while, the other side finally moved. What should we do? Should we move immediately? Let's wait a little longer. We'll move around and rest for a while. We'll move around 10 p.m. The 5 people were all wearing the uniform of the Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts Academy. It's too early. There might be an accident. 10 p.m. is still too early. I think so too. Then let's do it at midnight or after midnight. Let's do it at 2 a.m. This is the time when normal people are the most tired and their willpower is the weakest. We have the highest chance of success. We must finish it on the first day and retreat quickly. Otherwise, when they gather on the 3rd day and start searching, we won't be able to hide at all. There'll be endless trouble. Understood. Number 2 and 3, you guys go and deal with number 1. He said, crush him directly. I'll confirm again. That bastard is called Swordsmanship. He's the champion of the Dragon and Tiger ranking tournament. His strength is far above Xiangchong and Xiangbing. You 2 go all out and kill him in the shortest time possible. Understand? Understood. Number 4 and 5, you 2 go and deal with Xiangchong. The same way you dealt with Swordsmanship. Don't give them a chance to call for help. Shda. The 4 of them were silent for a moment. What did the boss mean? Did this mean that he was going to deal with Xiangbing by himself? Did he plan to take it all for himself? Do it by himself? There's no share for us? The boss looked at the 4 people's faces and immediately understood what they were thinking. He said angrily, what are you thinking? Are you afraid that I'll take it all for myself? The way I'm doing it now is the most effective and fastest way to kill the target. If the 5 of us were to move together, wouldn't I be the one to go first? Do you have any objections? Or are you unhappy? What are you talking about? Boss, you should be the first. The other 4 laughed lasciviously. As long as the boss didn't take it all for himself, what they were afraid of was that the boss would kill them with a slap after having his fun. That would be boring. Don't keep thinking about this. This matter is very important. I'm telling you, if we mess it up, none of us will be able to escape. Dying without a burial ground is considered a light punishment. Of course. Boss, have you planned the retreat route? Of course. As long as we complete this mission, we will immediately leave Fenghai. This place is already outside the city. In the next 2 days, we will cross 10,000 miles and hide our identities. I have already prepared a new identity for all of us. After that, we just need to wait for the money to be transferred to our account. 1 billion. Brothers, this time I won't take much. We 5 brothers will take 200 million each. For the sake of our harmony for the rest of our lives, we will split it equally. The boss smiled and said, I don't want to quarrel with all of you for a little money in the future. How could we? The 5 brothers were all smiles. Since everything was ready, then let's do this mission and fight for a lifetime of support. Let's find a clean place and wait for the target. Zuoxiaoduo, Xiangchong, and Xiangbing each did their own thing and walked forward, maintaining the same pace. In this way, Zuoxiaoduo's harvest speed slowed down. In the monitoring room of the Hidden Dragon High Martial School, seeing that this guy had finally slowed down, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. He stopped for 7 to 8 hours and started again. But the speed of gaining points is much slower. Yes, he should be injured. He doesn't dare to act recklessly like before. I think he must have encountered a high-level primordial core realm star beast. I think so too. Even if he is injured, with the resources on him, he should be able to recover, right? Is there a need to inform Teacher 1? Chapter 429. I don't think it's necessary for the time being. He's starting to kill star beasts again. Even though his speed is slower than before, his growth rate is still about the same as Li Chenglong's, who is ranked 2nd. I feel that his speed is already very fast. That's true. Let's wait for a while. If his speed continues to decrease, we'll have to inform Teacher Wen Xingtian to go over and take a look. If he's really injured and we don't report it in time, it'll delay our plan. That's right. We still have to pay close attention to this Zuoxiaoduo. The sky was getting darker, and Zuoxiaoduo and the other 2 were getting deeper and deeper into the forest. The star beasts that appeared now were already very difficult to deal with compared to Xiangchong and Xiangbing. Their strength was basically at the late stage of the early stage origin core realm. Occasionally there would be mid-stage origin core realm beasts. Xiangchong and Xiangbing had already been injured several times. There was even one time when they were surrounded by a group of star beasts. It wasn't easy for them to break out of the encirclement. Zuoxiaoduo didn't dare to ask for too much help. Even though the star beasts weren't difficult for him to deal with, he still pretended to be very tired and embarrassed. From time to time he would cry out, "Ah," in a miserable voice. Fuck. He was very angry. So many. He was very frightened. Run. Come and help. Hence Xiangchong and Xiangbing really did come over. Then, the 3 of them shouted together, rising and falling one after another. Ah! Too many. Too fierce. Come and help. It had to be said that Xiangchong and Xiangbing's acting skills were at least a galaxy away from Zuoxiaoduo's. Not to mention outstanding voice and emotion, they didn't even have the slightest bit of style. They were completely lifeless. However, the 3 of them continued to kill and kill along the way. They used real swords and spears, killing and chopping. They didn't care about acting, and they were completely immersed in the battle. Xiangchong and Xiangbing felt that this trial was going very smoothly. They kept pressing the harvesting points on the trial communicator, almost forgetting that there were still enemies coveting them. Zuoxiaoduo was really impressed by the brother and sister's careless temperament. Fortunately, you 2 grew up in a big family. Otherwise, the grass on your grave would have grown into a towering tree by now. What time is it? It was Xiangchong's voice. 10:30 p.m. Xiangbing replied. I'm a little tired, said Xiangchong. Hold on a little longer. Otherwise, we might not be able to get into the top 3. Xiangbing was also very tired, but she still encouraged Xiangchong. How dare the 2 of you covet the top 3? Zuoxiaoduo snorted. Between the 2 of you, at most, only one of you can go in. Meng Zhongjun might not necessarily be inferior to Xiangchong. The second place would definitely be Li Chenglong. Zuoxiaoduo knew Li Chenglong's ability better than anyone else. That guy was very meticulous. He could guess what kind of star beast was here just by looking at a blade of grass. Who could compare with such a talent? If not for Zhou Xiaoduo's cultivation and combat strength being much stronger than Li Chenglong's, even Zhou Xiaoduo wouldn't have the confidence to defeat Li Chenglong. There were many new students in Hidden Dragon High School. There were 24 classes with a minimum of 36 people in each class. 700 to 800 people were scattered in this area, but there was basically no one to be seen. The trial area was really too big. As time passed, the gap between each class would only widen. All the students were trying their best to harvest their credits. The more the better. Even if they couldn't get into the rankings, it was still a harvest. It was also a resource for the future. No matter what, they couldn't be left too far behind. At the very least, they had to have enough credits. If they were left behind once, they would be left behind again and again. Others would never stop and wait for you. The same batch of students who entered the school had the same background. Some of them had become generals in the Sun Moon Pass, but some of them weren't even squadron leaders. This kind of thing could be found everywhere. Most of the students who were promoted to Hidden Dragon High School were outstanding in the martial arts schools they came from. Naturally, no one wanted to be left behind. They persisted until after midnight. Zhou Xiaoduo felt that it was about time. He began to consciously move closer to the center. If it were me, how would I do it? If I were to do this, I would definitely do it on the first night because I still need time to escape. My own life is more valuable than other people's. So I would prepare everything for my escape, including identity, money, route, and possible supply points. If it were me, when would I choose to do it on the first night? After midnight and before 3 o'clock in the morning. Before midnight is too early, and after 3 o'clock is too late. If I do it after 3 o'clock, the darkest time before 4:30 is not enough for me to run too far. Once dawn comes, it will be too easy for me to be discovered. And the most tiring time for a human's body is between midnight and 3 o'clock. It is also during this time that one's vigilance is the lowest. Zhou Xiaoduo had already thought about all of this countless times. Every possibility, every hypothesis, they had all been calculated. He put himself in this state of mind, put himself in that state of mind, and calculated everything no matter how big or small. He had already determined countless variables and had countermeasures for all of them. He didn't miss anything. Now Zhou Xiaoduo was on Xiangbing's left, about 200 meters away. Xiangcheng, who was on Xiangbing's right, was also about 200 meters away. Time passed little by little. There were more and more meteors in the sky. However, other than the sound of meteors hitting the ground, there were fewer and fewer movements on the ground. It was already 1:30. Zhou Xiaoduo faintly felt that something was wrong. The small insects that were flying behind him suddenly became disorderly. This meant that someone was coming. Had they finally started to act? Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned. He snorted in his heart and pretended that he didn't know anything. He scolded, "Where are the star beasts in this broken place? We've been walking for more than 10 minutes. Why can't I even smell the stench?" At this moment, there was a slight sound of wind breaking behind him. At the same time, an aura instantly locked on to Zhou Xiaoduo. As a martial artist, Zhou Xiaoduo was naturally alert. He immediately turned around and said, "Why are you two here? I don't need your help here." He looked indifferent. It seemed that he thought that Xiangcheng and Xiangbing had come. Suddenly, two black shadows appeared simultaneously. Two sharp swords flickered with cold light as they ruthlessly stabbed towards Zhou Xiaoduo's body. At this moment, they were very close to each other. In addition, it happened so suddenly. Zhou Xiaoduo, who was only in the innate stage, had no chance of surviving against two mid-stage inner core stage martial artists. Zhou Xiaoduo was definitely going to die. The two sharp swords pierced toward him like poisonous snakes. They were going to kill him in one hit. But at this moment, two soft clangs rang out, and the two sharp swords simultaneously pierced a large iron hammer that had appeared out of nowhere. Then there was a rumbling sound. Hammer technique. At this moment, Zhou Xiaoduo, who had been preparing for a long time, unleashed his acting skills. He smashed the two hammers that he had been accumulating power for a long time while he screamed in pain. His scream stopped halfway. It was as if someone had cut his throat with a sword and stopped abruptly. As for the two hammers, they had already turned into a whirlwind. One of them was sent flying along with his sword without making a sound. He was severely injured and on the verge of death. The moment his body was sent flying into the air, Shuo kept him back into the Tower of Annihilation. The sword of the other man was instantly broken. While he was still in shock, he tried his best to dodge. Unfortunately, the heavy hammer came again and smashed onto his shoulder. Even though he was in the middle stage of the inner core realm, he could not block it. With a light cracking sound, his shoulder immediately shattered. Before he could even scream, the tip of a sword had already pierced through his back. Then a fist hit his face. What followed was a soft and gentle hit on the head with a hammer. He fainted immediately. They thought that they had caught their opponents off guard and that victory was in their hands. However, they did not expect that they were not the ones who were caught off guard. Shuo used all his strength in the first strike. The one who was sent flying did not even think of capturing him alive. If he was lucky, he would live. If he was unlucky, he would be sent to the other world. If he was not killed by the hammer, it was hard to say who was lucky. After throwing the unconscious one into the Tower of Annihilation, Shuo took the time to look. He realized that the first one was not dead and was struggling for his life inside. Shuo rushed in and hit him on the head, knocking him out successfully. He could not let them commit suicide. After more than 20 years, he had only caught 2 of them alive. They were too precious and hard to come by. Then he quickly rushed to the other side as if he was flying. When he passed by Xiangbing, he saw a man in black carrying her out. It was obvious that even though this girl was on full alert, she had still been successfully ambushed. Damn. This was too useless. If it wasn't for Shuo, this operation would have been a guaranteed success. Another horrifying tragedy. However, Shuo did not attack directly. Instead, he quietly went around and moved to Xiangcheng. At the same time, he crushed the jade of astral souls given to him by Wen Xingtian. Xiangbing's life was not in danger for the time being. That guy definitely wanted to have some fun, and having fun was the goal of their trip. Shuo was very sure of this from the beginning. However, if this guy really wanted to have fun, he would need some time to prepare. However, after assessing the strength of the 2 people with him, Shuo realized that if he delayed for even a second, Xiangcheng might die on the spot. With the brother and sister's vigilance, Shuo did not dare to have any hope. Sure enough, on the other side, Xiangcheng was roaring angrily. Blood was spurting out of his body. He was obviously seriously injured. 2 black figures surrounded Xiangcheng. Their hands were shining coldly and their movements were as agile as ghosts. At the border, Wen Xingtian's body, which had been accumulating energy for a long time, soared into the sky. With a single leap, he soared 1,000 meters into the air, bringing with him an extremely sharp whistling sound. His movement speed was even faster than the speed of sound. The air behind him started to burn. It actually created a long fire dragon in the night sky. This was a sign of air fire that could only appear when one's speed reached a certain level. Wen Xingtian's speed was already shocking at this moment. The overwhelming aura of the imperial spirit was like the blue sky suddenly collapsing. It instantly suppressed the whole place. Isn't it awesome? Monthly votes? Chapter 430. Xiangcheng roared angrily. Even though he was on full alert just now, the gap between their cultivation levels was too wide. Moreover, he lacked experience in Jianghu. His shoulder was injured by the sneak attack at the beginning of the fight. After that, he fell into a state of being beaten up. In less than 10 seconds, there were more than 30 wounds on his body. His vision darkened, his movements became sluggish, his energy was weak, and many negative conditions were worsening. He was holding on with only his spirit. He believed that Shuo would definitely come to his rescue. He could not give up, he must not give up. At this moment, a white shadow rushed over. Who else could it be other than Shuo? Xiangcheng groaned and muttered, "Go save Lil Bing." Then he fainted. "What the fuck?" Shuo cursed. "You fainted when you saw me coming over. You're so fucking relieved. Why don't you talk about your vigilance? I've already told you so clearly, but the situation still turned out like this. My sister is like this and so is my brother. However, this was not the time to reflect on the current situation. The two enemies were already close to him, their swords flashing as they attacked. Zuo Duo waved his hands and two sledgehammers appeared out of thin air, one on the left and one on the right. Without moving, they blocked all the attacks. The sledgehammers were too big. Then the two sledgehammers turned into a dark tide. Sledgehammer. Sledgehammer, sledgehammer. Sledgehammer, sledgehammer. Zuo Duo used all his strength right from the start. This battle was different from the previous one. Previously, he had planned a sneak attack, but this time it was a head-on battle. Naturally, he would use his strongest trump card right from the start. He had to end the battle as soon as possible. He still needed to save Xiang Bing. With a whoosh, Zuo Duo turned into a violent whirlwind. With a roar, the sledgehammers smashed toward them. Seeing the ferocious momentum, the two of them hurriedly blocked it. With their combined strength, they actually managed to withstand Zuo Duo's first sledgehammer. Their strength was impressive. A muffled sound rang out, and even the entire forest trembled. The two of them staggered backwards. The webbing between their thumb and forefinger had already ruptured, dripping with blood. They looked at each other in shock. However, Zuo Duo's second and third hammer strikes had already landed without any hesitation, forcefully attacking their defensive line. At this time, taking care of these two people was the most important thing. He didn't have the mood to care about keeping them alive. Boom, boom, boom. Their bodies were like weeds in the wind, swaying left and right. By the fourth hammer strike, their weapons had been completely broken. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths, and their eyes were filled with fear. How could the other party be so strong? Woo! Zuo Duo then smashed the fifth hammer, which was even more powerful. The next 7 or 8 hammers smashed down like a mountain. According to Yi Chongqing's calculations, the power of this attack was enough to kill a high-level primal core cultivator. While Yi Chongqing was calculating, Zuo Duo had yet to compress the pinnacle of the innate realm. Now he had already suppressed it 9 times. Therefore, the power of this attack had already far exceeded his previous estimation. The combined defense of the two of them was no match for this hammer strike. Their weapons were already completely broken. The two of them roared in despair, desperately using the remaining half of their weapons to block. Boom! The two hammers did not differentiate between first and second, directly sweeping away the enemy like a mountain. The last half of the weapon instantly turned into powder, and the huge hammer smashed heavily onto the two of them. With a pew sound, they were sent flying. Their bodies were actually changing shape in the air like fairies. All the bones in their bodies had been smashed to pieces, and their bodies rapidly changed from long to round. Blood spurted out from their bodies. Zuo Duo did not even bother to check on the two of them, nor did he care about the unconscious Xiang Chong on the ground. He immediately put away his hammers and rushed towards the center like lightning. Xiang Bing was still in the hands of the last person on the other side. In the blink of an eye, he had covered more than 700 meters. He saw that the black-clothed man had already chosen a flat area and put Xiang Bing down. At this moment he was standing there, looking at Xiang Chong with a look of surprise and uncertainty. Obviously, he had heard the commotion just now. He already knew that there was a change in the situation. Zuo Duo did not hesitate at all. Like a mad tiger, he rushed out and shouted, "Who are you?" His voice shook the air and spread far and wide. Previously, he could not shout. Once he did, he would alert the enemy. If this guy sent a message to the mastermind before he died, it would definitely mess up the follow-up plan. But now he could. Zuo Duo was confident that he could control the situation. Even if Wen Xingqian did not come, he could still smash this guy until he could not free himself. The man in black's expression changed. He took out a long sword and was about to attack. His strength was obviously a level higher than the previous 4 people. He was vaguely above the high level of inner core. However, there was a sharp sound in the sky. The biting cold aura was like the sky falling down. "Leave it to me." When Xingqian descended from the sky with the fire dragon, in a flash he was in front of Zuo Duo. His voice was as cold as ice. When Xingqian was afraid that Zuo Duo would not be able to control himself and would not be able to withstand the power and kill this person. With a shout, he reached out and grabbed Xiang Bing. First, the enemy would have no hostage to rely on. Although he was not afraid, he did not want that kind of change to happen. Bang! The man in black had just stabbed out with his long sword when Xingtian's palm hit his chest. His chest felt heavy, as if it was pressed down by a mountain, and he was about to retreat. But, slap! With a backhand, he slapped the man in the face again and knocked him out. With a poof, Xingtian grabbed him by the chest and pulled him over. Xingtian did not dare to use any strength. He was afraid that he would hurt this treasure by slapping him to vent his anger. Now that he was sure that he had captured him alive, he could finally breathe a sigh of relief. His fingers moved like the wind and sealed all the meridians in the man's body in an instant. Then, he pinched the man's chin and exerted some force. With a crack, the man's lower jaw was dislocated. Then, he started to check from head to toe. He even checked every inch of the man's meridians. He was afraid that there was something that could immediately trigger suicide. He searched every inch of the man's body. Even his intestines were almost checked. How is Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing? Xingtian breathed a sigh of relief. Xiang Bing is here. He should have just fainted. Xiang Chong is a little further away. He is seriously injured, but it should not be fatal. I killed the two people who surrounded him, but I was worried about Xiang Bing. I did not have time to check on his injuries and rushed here directly, Zhuo Duo said. Well done. With Xingtian's experience, he naturally knew the severity of the matter. He praised him and stepped in front of Xiang Bing. He used his hand to feel the pulse on his wrist. Vigorous vitality rushed into his body and instantly woke Xiang Bing up. However, when Xiang Bing opened his eyes, Xingtian had already disappeared and went to Xiang Chong's side. In the blink of an eye, he came back with Xiang Chong. He looked at Zhuo Duo and shook his head. The other two men were dead under Zhuo's full-strength sledgehammer. Xingtian's gaze was a little regretful. It would have been better if they were all captured alive. However, one look at their injuries and he knew that Zhuo Duo did not hold back. There was not a single complete bone that was bigger than a fingernail in their bodies. How could they still be alive? What happened to my brother? Xiang Bing was shocked. She thought that something had happened to Xiang Chong. He's fine. It's just that I didn't stop the person who attacked him and killed him. Xingtian said lightly, Xiang Chong's injuries are not light. However, most of them are flesh wounds. At most, some of his muscles and bones are damaged. It's not a big deal. I'll give him some medicine later and he'll be fine. Zhuo Duo wanted to hide his trump card. Xingtian naturally would not let his hammer be exposed. Otherwise, what was the point of entering the Tower of Annihilation to practice martial arts every night? Of course, he had to take responsibility for everything. Xiang Bing was relieved. Immediately, her face flushed red with embarrassment. It was not because of anything else. Zhuo Duo had already warned her, but she still fell into his trap. She was knocked unconscious without any strength to fight back. She did not even realize that the enemy was coming. However, after thinking deeper, her face became more and more unpredictable. Sometimes it was pale, sometimes it was red. The former was due to fear, while the latter was due to embarrassment and embarrassment. She was really too useless. Xingtian did not say anything more. Even if he wanted to say something, it would not be now. After waking Xiang Chong up, he applied medicine and took the medicine. Finally, he drank a whole bottle of spring water. Only then did he let him sit on the ground to regulate his breathing and take care of his body. It's all right. Xingtian said, you and Xiang Bing, withdraw from this trial immediately and wait here. Xiang Chong gasped and said, thank you for your help, Teacher One. However, we don't want to withdraw from the trial just like that. Thank me for my help. You should thank Zhuo Duo directly. If it wasn't for him, what would have happened to you two today? It's really. Xingtian pointed out calmly. The brother and sister's faces flushed red with shame. This matter was really embarrassing. As for why you withdrew from the trial, is there any need to explain? Do you want to keep the two of you alive and let everyone know that you're not dead? Isn't that telling the enemy that the plan has failed? Are all the brains of the Xiang family made of muscles? You can't even think of such a simple thing? Xingtian said, remember, from the beginning to the end of this matter, you'd better keep it to yourselves. The two of you stay here and don't move a single step. Wait for me to come back. Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing pondered for a moment. How could they not know the severity of the matter? They could only agree. Before Zhou Xiaoduo could say anything when Xingtian said, "Come with me," he directly lifted Zhou Xiaoduo into the air and went to a place far away. When Xingtian opened his mouth and asked, "Only these 3? You killed 2? 5. I still have 2 unconscious ones here. I've already thought of keeping them alive." When Xingtian replied with a grunt, feeling a sense of relief. With 3 survivors it would be much easier to deal with than with 1. He said, "The 2 dead ones are with me. Give me the 2 you have." "Okay, but, Teacher 1, there are hammer wounds on their bodies. The marks." Zhou Xiaoduo coughed. When Xingtian looked at him strangely, "I've already taken over. Are you still worried about this?" Ahem. Zhou Xiaoduo was speechless. He carried the 2 unconscious guys out of the Tower of Destruction. He handed them over to Wen Xingtian. When Xingtian checked them, their injuries were very serious, but it didn't matter. When Xingtian was confident that they wouldn't die and could even ensure that they lived healthily until they were worthless. Chapter 431. This is a treasure. We can't let it die. When Xingtian took out 2 bottles of spring water and poured them down their throats without hesitation, he said to Zhou Xiaoduo, "I'll ask the principal for reimbursement for this spring water." I'll reimburse you for 20 bottles. Half for you, half for me. Let's form a clique and line our own pockets." Now that the matter was settled, when Xingtian was in a good mood, he even joked with Zhou Xiaoduo, "I won't stand on ceremony. Haha." Zhou Xiaoduo was overjoyed. This was good stuff. After drinking 1 bottle, Xiang Chong's severe external injuries had scarred visibly. It was estimated that he would fully recover in half an hour. This effect was almost comparable to the nutrition chamber. How could Zhou Xiaoduo not covet it? However, the rings of the 2 dead men were still broken. This made Zhou Xiaoduo very unhappy. Even if these rings were not broken, they would not belong to him. However, Zhou Xiaoduo still felt sorry for the rings that he had broken, because this meant that in the future, he would still break the rings that belonged to him. Just thinking about it made Zhou Xiaoduo's heart twitch. "That's all my money, you know." "Oh right." When Xingtian was about to leave, but he stopped and looked at Zhou Xiaoduo. "Zhou Xiaoduo, huh? Did you really see it through physiognomy? About Xiang Bing and the others?" When Xingtian asked in an unprecedentedly cautious tone, "I really saw it through physiognomy. As long as a person is facing a great disaster, as long as I see this person I can see it. No matter who it is." Zhou Xiaoduo also answered in an unprecedentedly cautious tone. When Xingtian was stunned. After a long time he muttered, Okay. He looked at Zhou Xiaoduo as if he was looking at a piece of treasure. At this moment when Xingtian was thinking, "This guy, why don't I let him fight in the future? It's a waste to let him fight with such skills. It's only right to protect him like a national treasure." However, when Xingtian himself did not think it was possible. First of all, when Xingtian would not agree to it. Zhou Xiaoduo would not agree to it. With this guy's current foundation, it was most likely that he would become the strongest person in the world since ancient times. How could he be compared to him with his identity as a fraud? He had walked the thorny path 20 to 30 times, and each time he had walked it several times more than the others. This was simply a deranged bastard. Go and continue with the trial. When Xingtian's gaze deepened, "Oh right, give me the Annihilation Tower, I'll use it for a while. Bring the 3 of them back alive." The space ring could not store living things, but the tower could. These people could not be exposed to the outside world now. Now was not the time to talk about this. On the way back, when Xingtian's figure was not as fast as when he came, but the trajectory of his movement was much more strange. He floated like a ghost and carefully went back. At the barrier, Xiang Quangren's heart had already exploded several times, but he still had to pretend that nothing had happened. This kind of torture almost drove the first vice principal crazy. Finally, he heard the voice transmission. "Come out to the big pit 1,200 meters ahead on the right." When Xingtian was back, Xiang Kuangren suddenly disappeared with a whoosh. Everyone at the side was shocked. They just saw this person here enjoying the scenery with a relaxed face. Why? Did he suddenly disappear? Xiang Kuangren suddenly appeared in front of Wen Xingtian. Even Wen Xingtian was shocked. Why are you so fast? What's the matter? Xiang Kuangren was about to go crazy. Here there are 5 people. 3 are alive and 2 are dead. Wen Xingtian pointed at the 3 people on the ground, but used his thigh to stop Xiang Kuangren from going over. Wait a moment, you can come over after I'm done talking. You have to promise me that you'll stay calm and not act rashly. Can't you just say it? Are you crazy? Xiang Kuangren was about to die from anxiety. These people want to do to Xiangchong and Xiangbing what they did to Xiangchong and Xiangbing. What they did to Vice Principal Cheng's family. Wen Xingtian said vaguely with a dark face. Xiang Kuangren exploded when he heard this. Fuck their mothers. Wen Xingtian covered Xiang Kuangren's mouth with one hand and used the highest power of the royal god tier. Xiang Kuangren whimpered and looked at Wen Xingtian angrily, but in the end, he did not act rashly. Wen Xingtian lowered his voice and said sternly, I know you're angry, but old Xiang, let me tell you. You understand. You have to calm down and not be impulsive. These are the only 3 people we've caught alive in the past 20 years. If you dare to act rashly, I'll fight you to the death. The only 3 people alive. Do you understand? Not if you do. If you don't, I'll say it again. If you don't calm down, I'll attack you. Wen Xingtian looked at Xiang Kuangren sternly. The anger in Xiang Kuangren's eyes receded like the tide. And what followed was an icy calmness. This matter was too big. The only 3 people alive. If you old Xiang dare to kill them, I will definitely kill you. Wen Xingtian's eyes were bloodshot. He finally let go of Xiang Kuangren. Xiang Kuangren stood for a moment and calmed down. What do we do now? Wen Xingtian's eyes flickered like will-o'-the-wisps. Now only the 2 of us know about this. Xiangchong, Xiangbing and Zhuoxiaoduo. There's no one else who knows. You know better than me what to do in the aftermath of this matter. You must act quickly. Wen Xingtian's face darkened. Think about it. Now are you going to go back to boss or should I go back? Xiang Kuangren said, I'll go back. You still have to take care of the students. If you leave rashly, you'll be a bigger target than me. There's a day of buffer time tomorrow, so it'll be a good opportunity for me to go back and report to boss. It'll be reasonable for me to come back and preside over the situation. I believe no one will notice anything amiss. When Xingtian said, okay, then you'll use the Annihilation Pagoda to bring these people back and hand them to boss. But you have to hurry up and send the Annihilation Pagoda back to me. I still have to go back and bring Xiangchong and Xiangbing back. Do you understand what I mean? Now they're both dead. This is the only way to buy more buffer time. When Xingtian said slowly, I understand, I completely understand. Xiang Kuangren suddenly perked up. What do you understand? When Xingtian asked. Well, it's to spread the news that Xiangbing and Xiangchong have been killed. Xiang Kuangren said cleverly. To confuse the enemy. You understand, my ass. When Xingtian couldn't help but curse. He suppressed his voice and said angrily, what you should do is to send people to monitor all the banks from now on. It'll be fine if you can get the names of these people, but if you can't get anything out of them, you'll have to look in that direction. Even if everything goes smoothly here, the other party who sent the money is our next target. That's what you should understand. Idiot. Even if they want to silence them, if they can't find them, they can only send the money. Do you understand? When Xingtian scolded without holding back, Xiang Kuangren lowered his head in shame. He really didn't think of that. If you don't have the ability to monitor all the banks, ask the boss to find someone. When Xingtian pointed at Xiang Kuangren's nose and said, only the 3 of us know this. If you dare to say it out loud, I'll kill you. I'll definitely shut up and stop talking, okay? I mean, you can't say anything to the Shi and Chang sisters either. They've been suppressed for too long, so it's easy for them to change their attitude. When Xingtian said directly, understood. If you understand, then hurry up and go. When Xingtian put them into the Tower of Annihilation and said angrily, Remember to send the Tower of Annihilation back to me as soon as possible. Xiang Kuangren took it, but he was still a little unhappy. He said, I'm older than you, my position is higher than yours, and I'm your elder brother. You scold me every day. Can't you show me some respect? Do you have a brain? When Xingtian rolled his eyes. Are you that free? Do you have a lot of time? Why aren't you leaving? Do you want to hear me scold you more? Xiang Kuangren did not dare to say another word and ran away. Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing waited in the dense forest where they were. The brother and sister could not help but tremble. If Zuoshaoduo was not here today, it was easy to imagine what kind of tragic fate would have awaited them. This had nothing to do with courage. Even though they were both martial artists and had participated in many battles, this was the first time they had faced such a life-and-death battle. Not to mention the meaning behind this operation, the danger involved, and the tragic fate they would face if it came to fruition. The two of them could not help but shudder with fear. The brother and sister looked at each other and saw each other's pale faces. Zuoshaoduo pattered over and sat down. He said, Look at your expressions, martial artists. With this kind of courage, haven't you killed anyone before? Xiangbing's face was pale. She said, Of course we've killed people before, but the people we killed were the kind of people who committed all kinds of evil. It felt good to kill them. You've never experienced such a conspiracy? Zuoshaoduo snorted. I really don't know how a big family like yours educates their children. You throw them out one by one like by Hua Hua? They look smooth and elegant, but they're just embroidered pillows in their bones. They look good, but they're useless. As a disciple of a big family, even if they're not more sinister and cunning, they should at least be more stable and have more control, right? Zuoshaoduo said, just like the way you two are now. Not only are you embarrassing, but you're also very disappointing. We've also received education in this area. We've memorized the books by heart. The more Xiangchong spoke, the less confident he felt. He muttered, I understand the principles, but when it's my turn I forget everything. Zuoshaoduo could not help but be speechless. But when he thought about it carefully, this was indeed the case. He had learned thousands of principles and tens of thousands of things he should have done. He was clear in his heart. But when it was his turn, he did not know anything. He could not even remember. Chapter 432. For children of his age, no matter what kind of big family they were born into, they would not have much experience. Especially for a family like the Xiang family, which had parents and family backing them up, they would always be well protected. Although it seemed like they knew everything, it was indeed difficult for them to not know how to use it since they had never experienced it personally. Even for himself, if it were not for those 5 years of perseverance, sharpening his desire for improvement, and if it were not for the constant messages from his father, Zuochonglu, teaching him how to do things, he might not have been able to do so. Many things can be read once, read again, read again. Read 3 times and you will have different insights. Then, when you personally see other people's experiences, you will have different insights. He still remembered that his father's only request was that when he encountered these things, or when he had new insights, he did not care whether it was right or wrong. Send it to me for me to see. And even if he really sent it, his father would not make any comments. But as he sent it over and over again, these things that he had seen, heard, and experienced became his own miraculously. It went deep into his heart and became his own experience. Take Li Chenglong as an example. Li Chenglong's fate was not necessarily better than Zuoshaoduo's at the beginning. He was always at the bottom of the warrior class, and because of his abnormalities, he had long positioned himself as the leader. But it was also because of such fate that his temperament matured early. He judged the situation and had his own methods. He planned everything before taking action. His foresight was even better than Zuoshaoduo's. Once the wind and clouds turned into a dragon, he stood in front of others. Without great wisdom and perseverance, it was difficult to achieve. Education was indeed different. Zuoshaoduo was thinking about this problem, and coincidentally, when Xingtian was also thinking about this problem. The way Zuoshaoduo, Xiangchong, and Xiangbing handled today's matter could be said to be the difference between heaven and earth. One was gold, and the other was not even comparable to dung. There was no comparison at all. The difference between heaven and earth was not enough to describe it. What the children lack is the world of martial arts in crisis. Now, each and every one of them is like a seedling that has not experienced wind and rain, unable to be destroyed. When Xingtian sighed, with Xiangchong and Xiangbing's strength, as well as their preparations, they should have been able to react better. At the very least, they should have been able to stall for a few minutes. Just a little bit of the previous unforeseen event was enough to change the situation and tilt the situation in favor of the other side. However, their inaction and even negative actions almost caused the situation to lose balance. What if the last black-clothed man didn't maintain his original intention and directly slapped Xiangbing to death? At that time, Xiangbing had fallen into his hands for a short period of time. Although it was not as shocking as the original plan, the goal was still achieved. Even if when Xingtian rushed over, it would still be useless. It was a foregone conclusion. It seems that there is a need to strengthen this aspect. When Xingtian couldn't help but think of Zhang Xiaofei's suggestion when he came back, the students lack society's vicious beatings. Now, when Xingtian really agreed with this sentence, and even wanted to put it into action as soon as possible, a group of well-protected fledglings once released was bound to suffer heavy losses. Also, although those who are above the nascent soul stage are unable to enter, those who enter will be able to sense it. However, these 5 people sneaked in just like that, and they were placed in at the last minute. This means in the school, among the 24 form teachers, there is a traitor. At least one. When Xingtian's eyes flashed with extreme pain, among the 24 form teachers, which one of them didn't have a life and death experience with him? If there was really a problem with one of them, brothers, we have all broken through the life and death obstacles on the battlefield, which is equivalent to crawling out from a pile of dead people. How can we still fall at this time? Can it still be changed? When Xingtian couldn't figure out the key point. However, the previous point was still certain. There must be a traitor. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the 5 of them to appear in the training grounds without making a sound. Even if the venue was twice as big, with the joint efforts of the 24 form teachers, they would be able to guard it flawlessly. Now, I can only hope that there is a problem with the locally recruited form teachers and not you guys. When Xingtian closed his eyes and prayed in his heart. An hour later, Xiang Kuangren's figure appeared in front of Wen Xingtian. When Xingtian didn't waste any time. After receiving the space-destroying pagoda, his body turned into an invisible smoke and rushed in the direction of Xiangchong and Xiangbing. Only after successfully putting the siblings into the space-destroying pagoda did Wen Xingtian feel slightly relieved. Then, he waved his hand and called Zhuo Duo over. Wen Xingtian began to calculate and formulate a follow-up plan step by step, but he intended to let Zhuo Duo be the advisor to perfect the plan. This was because when Xingtian found that Zhuo degree of experience in this kind of thing was at least further than Xiang Kuangren's. As for the problem of the traitor, after when Xingtian finished speaking, Zhuo Duo immediately gave a different direction of reference. The traitor problem may not necessarily lie with one of the 24 form teachers, because the news of this trial has been leaked long ago. As long as we arrange an ambush in the trial area in advance, it will be fine to make sure that no one finds out beforehand. Even if it is a last-minute idea, this method can still be implemented in time. You should know that there is a gap of half an hour between us leaving the school and coming here. This doesn't include the 10-minute speech by Vice Principal Xiang. After that, the teachers and students will enter the trial area, and then you guys will start to set up the control. During this time, there is at least an hour of buffer time to carry out this plan. Zhuo Duo said, based on this reason, there is no need to doubt yourself first, predetermine your position, and predetermine your identity. At present, everything should be based on the confession. After the interrogation, we can come to a conclusion. When Xingtian deeply agreed with Zhuo Duo's words. As for the problem of beating Xiangchong and Xiangbing at their own game, Zhuo Duo on the other hand didn't think so. When it comes to acting, I don't think you can act better than them. Instead of acting, it's better to directly tell the Xiang family that the brother and sister are dead. It's best to let the Xiang family think so. It's best if Vice Principal Xiang comes out and makes a big scene. Only then will it be real and trigger the other party's follow-up actions. The other party's intention is to kill two birds with one stone. They are looking forward to Vice Principal Xiang making a scene. When Xingtian's facial muscles twitched. If they did this, the Xiang family's domineering temper could really make a big scene. This matter still needs to be considered at length. We can't take it for granted. When Xingtian planned to go back and discuss the follow-up after that, Zhou Xiaoduo was just saying that. He didn't want the school to completely accept his plan immediately. He wasn't that arrogant. Besides, he wasn't confident that his judgment would be accurate. When Xingtian mentioned checking Fenghai Bank, Zhou Xiaoduo objected again. How do you know that they must be from Fenghai? Can't they be remotely controlled from Shangjing or other places? Zhou Xiaoduo said, for this matter, if these 5 people are men of sacrifice, then all the big banks in the country need to be monitored. When Xingtian was horrified. Yes. He suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. This cognitive oversight was really not small. It could easily completely mess up his judgment. Without saying anything, he immediately took out his phone and planned to inform Xiang Quangren. Use my phone for the time being. Zhou Xiaoduo handed over his phone. Teacher 1. Have you ever thought that your phones are already monitored? Well, only Vice Principal Xiang's phone is safer. After all, he just reconnected. His number might not have been leaked, but it might not be. When Xingtian, he realized that if it was someone like Zhou Xiaoduo who was dealing with him and the others, then there were really loopholes everywhere. He could target them however he wanted. He originally thought that the plan was flawless. At this moment, from Zhou Xiaoduo's mouth, there were so many loopholes. As expected of the old silver coin, when Xingtian sighed, when Zhang Xiaofei came back and said that you were the old silver coin. I didn't think so. Now it seems that there are only wrong names, not wrong nicknames. Zhou Xiaoduo was speechless. I'm racking my brains to help you guys, okay? Why did you suddenly throw such a black pot at me? You're questioning my character and slandering my reputation, aren't you? Teacher 1, in fact, it's not that your thinking is not thorough enough. It's just that what you face every day is the beauty of the world. And what you're working to spread is also the beauty of the world. Even on the battlefield, there are real swords and spears and there are few tricks. You really don't have many ways to deal with those dark sides. It's normal that you can't deal with them, Zhou Xiaoduo said seriously, but as a martial arts school, it's a mistake to avoid these dark sides too well. Yes. When Xingtian's face was heavy, when I go back this time I'll specifically mention it at the school meeting. You can continue the trial. When Xingtian said, I'll go back first. I'll borrow the air exterminating pagoda for 2 days. Don't worry, it won't swallow you. Zhou Xiaoduo's face was full of righteousness. Look at what you're saying. Am I that kind of stingy person? If the school wants to use it, just use it. He was forthright and generous. When Xingtian was stunned and said, why don't the school requisition it for half a year? And we'll talk about the follow-up after half a year? Zhou Xiaoduo was suddenly dumbfounded. He looked at Wen Xingtian with a twisted face. Ha ha ha. When Xingtian pointed at this guy and made him stagger. You dare to play this game in front of me? You have a lot of tricks up your sleeves, but your methods are still immature. You're just a kid. Get lost. Okay. I'll get lost. Zhou Xiaoduo ran away like a wisp of smoke. He was afraid that if he stayed for a second, the requisition for half a year would become reality. Chapter 433. When Xingtian smiled. His body flashed and he disappeared from where he stood. There was nothing for him to do. All that was left was the first place that was waiting for him. Thus Zhou Xiaoduo started his slaughter again. He never thought that he would not be the first place. That was a joke. Among all the new students in the Hidden Dragon High School, who would dare to have more than him? Grandpa Zhou kill him. He even had a choice. Those ugly and tasty ones were exchanged for contribution points. After being slashed by the dragon blood flying dagger, he pressed the button again and again. As for the delicious food and the beautiful furs, They were naturally all intercepted and kept. He kept the contribution points for himself into the ring given by his godfather, and the contribution points to the school were put into the ring given by Zhuxiaonian. With a single sword he swept through the entire training ground. All the Origin Core Realm star beasts were no match for him. Yes, there were only 2 golden armored star soul lions that appeared out of nowhere that forced Zhuxiao Duo into a sorry state. Left with no choice, he was forced to use his sledgehammer to deal with them, turning them into 2 piles of minced meat. Zhuxiao Duo smacked his lips in heartache. Those were all money. They were all academic credits. Why did you two have to be so fierce? You could have just left me a piece of skin. Zhuxiao's heart ached, and he turned to plunder horizontally. Wherever he went, not even a blade of grass grew, and not a single living creature remained. He was now 1 meter above the sky, and the distance was not that big anymore. What a pity that the Void Exterminating Tower was taken away by Wen Xingtian. Zhuxiao Duo looked at the nest of baby beasts in front of him. They were all so cute, and they were even Origin Core Realm star beasts. He did not know where to start. If he caught them, it would be a huge sum of money. In the next 2 days, Zhuxiao Duo went to all the training grounds of the Origin Core Realm. Without the slightest bit of modesty, he could say, "If I want to organize another training session for the new students next year, I reckon I'll have to change locations. Because this area with only a year's time, it was impossible to produce so many Origin Core Realm star beasts. Too many students only saw a flash of white, and the Primal Core Realm astral beast that had been right in front of them a moment ago disappeared without a trace. It was as if it had never existed. The unluckiest one was Shimen Daqing, who had not been seen for a long time. Ever since Zhuxiao Duo found him, Shimen Daqing, who had led the team to fight against Zhuxiao Duo, had not seen a single star beast. Everywhere he passed, it was a smooth, clean and unobstructed path. Shimen Daqing could be said to be extremely depressed. What was going on? Why was the trial even more enjoyable than the usual sightseeing trips? He really didn't encounter anything. But he was not here to enjoy the scenery. Shimen Daqing's greatest gain was that he saw a tuft of hair in a shrub that had been smashed by a meteor. This proved that there were indeed star beasts here, and there were quite a few of them. But now, where were the star beasts? Where did they go? Shimen Daqing wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He was only worried about how he was going to survive the next month. Who did I offend? My luck is really incurable. Zhuxiao Duo, who was walking further and further away, did not feel satisfied with his harvest, because the ring that Zhuxiaonian gave him was almost full. This meant that his plan to get more points would be blocked. This would not do. Zhuxiao Duo looked into the distance. That was the territory of the Soul Transformation Realm star beasts, which was very far away from here. Zhuxiao Duo sneaked a little and suddenly turned into a ray of light, rushing toward the territory of the Soul Transformation Realm star beasts. Damn! A head teacher who was stationed here felt the abnormal movement, but he did not expect that there would be such a daring person who dared to take such a big risk. He hurriedly gave an order and chased after him. As a result, after chasing for hundreds of miles, he saw Zhuxiao Duo rushing out desperately with 7 or 8 fluffy snow-white little guys in his arms. His face was full of urgency and his whole body was in a mess. He was as busy as a stray dog, as anxious as a fish that escaped the net, as a weasel that succeeded in stealing a chicken, fleeing in panic. "Teacher, run. No, can you help to block them?" Before he finished speaking, he passed by with a whoosh. "Damn!" The teacher cursed. "Which class are you from, you bastard?" But Zhuxiao Duo was already gone. Immediately he saw thousands of huge white tigers rushing out from inside. Each of them had a pair of wings on their ribs, a striking word king on their heads, and 2 sharp golden horns. They were twice the size of an ordinary elephant, and there were faint flashes of thunder and lightning on their golden horns, surging, flashing, and crazily rushing over. The moment they saw this teacher, they attacked together. Hundreds and thousands of lightning bolts blasted over in unison. Son of a bitch. This teacher had teleported several thousand feet away in a flash. He felt speechless in his heart. He had already reached the extreme. How long had this bastard been in there? And he had already caused such a big trouble. This group of lightning white tigers had obviously been driven crazy by him, and they had even pushed the blame onto him. The taste of being a scapegoat was not good. At this moment, even if they saw the teacher running away, the group of lightning white tigers still ignored the previous boundary and crazily chased after him, turning out in full force. This formed a situation of one person running in front and thousands of lightning white tigers chasing behind, like a huge wave rolling over. The scene was simply spectacular to the extreme. As the head teacher ran, he roared to the sky, "Come quickly, help me chase this group of tigers back." The head teacher was very sullen, very sullen. How could there be no reason for these tigers to be here? Although the training area outside Fenghai City seemed to be an ungoverned area, but if there were no divisions, how could it become the training ground of the Hidden Dragon High School? That year, it took a lot of effort to divide it layer by layer, and then various visible and invisible disturbances were applied, little by little influencing the star beasts to occupy their own territories and divide them clearly. These were all treasures, renewable and sustainable resources. With his cultivation, of course, he could kill them, and even kill all of these lightning white tigers. But these were all star beasts for the students to train. What was the point of killing them? Wouldn't that be putting the cart before the horse? In fact, the training area that the Hidden Dragon High School had created with his own strength, even the adventurers of Fenghai City were not allowed to enter. Why? It was to keep these fellows to continue to develop, and to be used for the students to train. But now, that kid who had just entered had stolen several nests of their cubs. The reason why it was several nests was because these lightning white tigers would never give birth to more than 3 cubs each time. And in that guy's arms there were at least 7 or 8 cubs. Damn it! The teacher was completely speechless. Which class is this bastard from? Does he have any manners? It was already the 3rd day, and the student's stamina had basically reached its limit. This was especially true for the area around them. After a few freaks had swept through the area like a plow, and with the combined efforts of 800 to 900 students, almost all of the adult star beasts had been captured. Many students had already stopped trying to catch them, and had instead gathered together to chat. As for the remaining ones that had escaped the net, even if they caught all of them, it would not change the current ranking. In such a big environment, the teachers naturally had some time to calm down. When they heard the long howls, they immediately rushed over, and when they looked over, they were all shocked. Some of the smarter ones instantly knew the whole story. It must be that these lightning white tigers' nests had been stolen. Otherwise, they would not be so crazy. When Xingtian also came, when he saw such a scene, there was almost no hesitation, and he did not need to use his brain to know who did this good deed. Other people, besides not having such big guts, also did not have such big methods. It must be that troublemaker. He did not have time to explain in detail, and a terrifying aura suddenly erupted, crashing down on the tiger pack. The group of lightning white tigers instantly felt an irresistible and terrifying aura, as if life and death were at stake. They suddenly stopped in their tracks, and some of them rubbed their front paws on the ground, and rubbed them far away before they could regain their footing. After a short while, thousands of white tigers roared towards the sky. Howl when Xingtian shouted sternly, "Go back!" Thousands of white sword auras suddenly appeared in his hands, and they were filled with murderous intent. Under the extreme pressure of the threat of death, the lightning white tigers turned around unwillingly and retreated. Many of them roared at the sky, but after a short while, they all lowered their heads and looked back every few steps. Their cubs were lost, but they did not want to lose their lives too. This 2-legged beast in front of them was too scary, and they could not afford to offend it. At most, they could go back and work harder. The situation was stronger than the beasts, so what could they do? Facing this scene, the other 20 or so teachers were all shocked and inexplicably shocked. It was not difficult to make a tiger retreat, and there were many people in the Hidden Dragon Martial Arts High School who could do it. However, what was surprising was that the one who made the move today was Wen Xingtian. Wasn't this guy the head of the Martial Arts Department's Civil Affairs Department, who rarely made a move personally, and always placed himself in the commanding position? What was going on today? Did the sun rise from the west? You actually took the initiative to make a move. A few teachers gathered around. Head of the Civil Affairs Department. Brother one. They were slightly closer. Old one. They were comrades in the past. Brother 13. They were sworn brothers. They all addressed each other differently. It's okay, take care of your students, and don't let them be eaten by the tigers. When Xingtian snorted and left in a flash. All the teachers. Something is wrong with this guy. One of the teachers frowned. Not only did he come too suddenly, but he also took the initiative to make a move. Even when he left in a panic. This is not like his usual self. It's indeed a little strange. Another teacher touched his chin. I don't think he has a guilty conscience. The teacher called when Xingtian's 13th brother snorted and said firmly, it must be one of the students in his class who stole the tiger cub. This guy is here to clean up his mess. Do you think I don't know him? That's right. That must be what happened. Let's go and take a look. Let's go and take a look. Let's go. The teachers had a simple discussion, and then they all rushed into the distance and chased after him. This time Zhuo Duo rushed back as if he was on fire. A total of 9 tiger cubs were brought out by him. They were all snow white and looked very adorable. The tiger cubs were about the same size as kittens, and their white fur was unusually soft. When he held them in his arms, it was like holding a ball of cotton, and it felt very nice to the touch. These tiger cubs were worth a lot of money. Money. A lot of money. He was rich. But the premise was that they could not be confiscated. And if he took them out like this, they would definitely be confiscated. But Master Zhuo had a way. As he ran, Zhuo Duo shouted, beauties! Beauties! Beauties, look at me! Beauties! I'll show you a big treasure. I promise you'll like it. Beauties! I have a treasure. Beauties! Looking for monthly votes. Recommendation votes. Subscribe. Chapter 434. Zhuo Duo called out to the girls along the way, but no one paid any attention to him. He swept past them like a hurricane. He could already see the male students in his class. Was he in the vicinity of Class 1? Girls. At this moment, Zhuo Duo saw a slim figure and shouted subconsciously, Jean Piapiao. It's class monitor Zhuo. Jean Piapiao, who was about to pass by, stopped killing her star beast and looked towards the direction of the voice. She was stunned for a moment before she chased after him as if she did not care about her life. Class monitor Zhuo. Zhuo Duo. Stop right there. Yu Yan who was on the other side, also rushed over with her eyes shining. Class monitor Zhuo. Stop right there. What's that in your arms? When the two girls shouted, the students in Class 1 nearby stood up immediately. Class monitor Zhuo? Yu Yan and Jean Piapiao were usually not very enthusiastic towards Zhuo Duo. Why were they calling him so affectionately today? They surrounded him subconsciously, obviously wanting to see what was going on. What's the matter? Wow! A girl had already pounced over with stars in her eyes. What a cute little white cat. Just as Zhuo Duo thought, girls had zero resistance towards these cute Xiao cats. Boomed out the whole class. More than 10 girls rushed over and surrounded Zhuo Duo. In an instant, Zhuo Duo was immersed in a sea of cosmetics that he had never enjoyed before. Left and right, he was surrounded by his classmate who was as beautiful as flowers and jade. Each and every one of them was looking at him with fervent eyes. Drooling with desire, their faces were full of, I want. Zhuo Duo, who sensed great danger, immediately hugged the little tigers in his arms and asked cautiously, what are you doing? What's this? Yu Yan could not move her eyes away. She was completely captivated by the cute little tiger's cat? Or, this is the white lightning tiger. Zhuo Duo snorted with a face full of disdain. This is a lightning white tiger that can grow to the cloud transformation realm. I had to go through untold hardships and went through a life and death crisis to get my hands on this white tiger cub. Move aside. I'm going to sell it. Don't push and touch it. Move aside. This is good stuff. When it grows up, it will be able to fly. It will be the overlord of the sky among the star beasts. Zhuo Duo hugged Bai Hu and dodged left and right. Get out of the way. Hey, where are you touching? White lightning tiger. The girls cried out in surprise, but they liked it even more. It was a high-grade star beast. She was actually so cute. Look at how furry it is. When it just opened its eyes, its watery little eyes, its wet little nose, its tender little claws, and its petite and exquisite little body, I was melted by her cuteness. This little guy, when he grew up, was actually the overlord of the sky. Wow. I was melted by her cuteness again. Let me touch it. Let me touch it too. Move aside, let me touch it. As the circle grew bigger and bigger, many girls from other classes also gathered over after hearing the news. For a moment there were too many girls to take in. Their eyes were filled with stars as they focused on Zhuoxiaoduo. Yes, it was the white tiger cub in Zhuoxiaoduo's arms. Some of them didn't know what a white lightning tiger was, but those who were more knowledgeable were drooling as they explained to them excitedly. In particular, they explained how rare the cub of a white lightning tiger was, and how obedient it would be when raised well. Most importantly, it was too beautiful and too cute. When it grew up, it would be able to gather thunder and lightning. When it spread its wings, it would be able to cross thousands of rivers and mountains. Super combat power. Super beautiful. Super cute. Most loyal when it grew up. Overlord of the sky. Although it was a little exaggerated, its speed was indeed comparable to an eagle's. It was definitely good stuff. For a moment the eyes of the girls were filled with stars. The little stars almost incinerated the tiger cub in Zhuoxiaoduo's arms. More and more beautiful young girls gathered, and the sounds of wow and oh rose one after another. At this moment, when Xingtian, who had just arrived, sighed. It was over. Don't even think about returning these little tigers. Just by looking at these girls' appearance one could tell. If these girls saw these little cuties, it would be a trap. With Zhuoxiaoduo's intelligence, how could he not know the principle of not revealing wealth to outsiders? However, at this moment these tiger cubs were exposed. It was obvious that he planned to directly make a move here, and then withdraw his huge sum of money. After that, everything would have nothing to do with him and he would be safe. As for wanting to get the cubs back from these girls, that was something he didn't even need to think about. Just tears alone could drown you. Move aside, I still want to sell them. Don't spoil them. Zhuoxiaoduo shouted anxiously. Sell? He was actually selling them? Hearing such good news, the girls' eyes widened. They immediately swarmed forward, no longer as reserved as they usually were. I want one. I want one. I don't care how much it costs, I'll reserve one. You must save one for me. I'll pay you big money. Here, one had to mention a sentence that Zhuochanglu once taught Zhuoxiaoduo. Women's money is the easiest to earn. However, it's too difficult to make women willingly pay. The art of using it lies in the heart. You must start with a cheap price. Now, at this moment, Zhuoxiaoduo was using the unique skill that his father taught him. How can I do this? Zhuoxiaoduo looked embarrassed. I'm planning to sell these tiger cubs to the first grade of the firmament. They'll buy them at a high price. How can I sell them to you? We're all classmates, I don't want to ask you for a high price. Wouldn't I suffer a huge loss? First grade of the firmament? Why would you sell them? What a joke, who said that we can't afford it? Why would we ask you for a cheap price? They'll still sell them at a higher price. Just tell me your price. How much is it? I'll buy them. It seemed that the person who spoke was definitely not short of money. What's with the money? Are you kidding me? Zhuoxiaoduo snorted and said. Anyone with a bit of insight would know that this thing is the best companion when it grows up. In the future it can bring you across thousands of mountains and rivers, fly all over the world, not to mention help you in battle. The most important thing is that it looks good. I don't need to tell you how much face it will bring out, right? This is a thunder tiger that can grow huge wings when it grows up. It has horns. One horn gathers wind and clouds, the other gathers thunder and lightning. It's like bringing a fighter jet with you. Wherever it goes, the wind and clouds will gather. Thunder and lightning will flash. The more Zhuoxiaoduo spoke, the brighter the girl's eyes became. Zhuoxiaoduo lectured. Is this something that can be bought with money? You have to use the jade of astral souls to appraise it. Astral souls jade, then astral souls jade. Just tell me how much you want. What do you mean by just saying without a price? That's right, that's right. I have jade of astral souls too. Swishaoduo shook his head like a rattledrum and said, "No. My family is in trouble. My sister has cerebral palsy since she was young. I want to sell it at a high price to aid my cultivation. Move aside, move aside. You guys only have a little bit of wealth. How can you compare with a first-grade heaven?" Swishaoduo was obviously trying to change the concept. The girls in front of him could not be compared with a first-grade heaven. However, a first-grade heaven would not rashly pay a high price for a tiger cub. But the girls did not know about this. Furthermore, a few of them came from families that might not be any weaker than a first-grade heaven. Therefore, the 100 over girls who had gathered there all had a fierce look in their eyes. "Go, where are you going? Do you think you can still leave? If you don't sell it to me, you're not allowed to leave. Sell it to me, I can pay a high price." The girls were all excited by Swishaoduo's words. "That's right. It's so cute, so beautiful, so cute. When it was young it was a pet. When it grew up it was a mount. When it grew up it was a battle partner. Its overall combat power was not low. With this by tiger it was like carrying a plane with them. They could go wherever they wanted without needing to queue for tickets. Just thinking about it made them feel great." Swishaoduo rushed to the left. The left side immediately blocked him. To the right there was a wall of people on his right. Countless girls stuck out their chests and resolutely did not retreat a single step. Moreover, they were approaching aggressively. To the back. "I can't turn around. There's a dangerous aura behind me. It should be the teachers. Oh my god, my scalp is numb." Swishaoduo made a prompt decision and said, "How about this? These little guys are not even a month old. If I don't sell them quickly, I'm afraid I can't raise them. Since you guys are so sincere, I'll auction them off. I also know that I can't afford to offend you girls. If I don't give them to anyone, I'll offend you even more. Let's just auction it off. I don't want much. I'll start with a piece of high-grade jade of astral souls. The highest bidder wins. How about it? I'm not cheating, right?" Swishaoduo immediately made a decision. In Swishaoduo's heart, what was cute? Was it useful? They were so young and still needed to raise them. Where would he find the time? Money. Cultivation resources. This was the real deal. Starting with a piece of high-grade jade of astral souls? So cheap? I'm determined to get it. 10 pieces. 10 times the starting price. Who else? Go away, I'll pay 100 pieces. 100 times the starting price. Forget it, I'll pay 500. 5,000 pieces of high-grade jade of astral souls. Zhen Piapiao shouted. She actually increased the price tenfold. 5,500. 7,000. 10,000. 14,000. In the blink of an eye, the price had already exceeded 10,000. The highest bidder was Yuyan Air. She had already bid 17,000 pieces of high-grade jade of astral souls. Everyone, everyone. Yuyan Air shouted. There are still 9 of them left. I don't have much left. I've already used up all I have. Everyone, please let me go. I'm deeply grateful. I'll definitely repay you in the future. There are still so many left. Sisters, if we fight too hard, class monitors will only take advantage of us. Class monitors is an unscrupulous businessman. Don't be fooled. Spend wisely. As she spoke, she bowed and thanked them. Swishaoduo gritted his teeth. He wanted to kick this girl 30,000 meters away. I'll send you 1,000 miles away. But after thinking about it, he decided to bear with it. If he wanted to teach her a lesson, he would have plenty of chances. The key now was to sell the goods. After today, he would make Swollen challenge her 100 times a day. Chapter 435. After hearing Yuyan Air's words, the girls pondered for a while and agreed with her. Especially the 17,000 upper-grade jade of astral souls, it was indeed a rather high price tag. Most of them could not afford to pay so many jade of astral souls. If the sisters continued to argue, Swishaoduo would be rich. Didn't they see that he was smiling so widely that his teeth were exposed? His back was almost visible. Shut up. Profiteer. Bitch. In an instant, the girls were united against a common enemy. Thus, the first Bai tiger was bought by Yu Yen Air for 17,000 upper-grade jade of astral souls. Immediately after, the second Bai tiger was bought by Zhan Pia Piao for 17,000. For the third Bai tiger, a girl from Class 2 had already bid 17,000. She wanted to buy it in one go, but she was a little too hasty, causing the others to feel a sense of crisis. They only felt that 17,000 had already become the final price. Why did it become a mess? She wanted to buy it at a fixed price. She was the early bird that got it first. Was she bullying them because they had no money? Suddenly there was another round of shouting. It was still the girl who had bid 17,000 at the beginning who finally bought it at 24,000. The imposing manner of facing a common enemy suddenly melted away like ice. They were once again in a competitive relationship. When it came to the fourth Bai tiger, it set a new record and was sold at 25,000. The fifth one was sold at 30,000. In the blink of an eye, 5 white tiger cubs were sold. Only 4 were left. The 5 girls who had already bought the Bai tiger hugged their Bai tiger and smiled like a flower. Who cared if they were sisters or not? They just hid in a corner and teased them. The Bai tiger whimpered, and the girls were all beaming with joy. Their hearts melted. Sisters. What was that? I don't care. The other girls could not help but be envious and jealous. Some were even envious. The few who were hesitant at first, after licking their faces and touching the Bai tiger's hand, their mentality suddenly exploded. So comfortable, so cute, so obedient, so cute, I want it, I want it, I want it. As a result, the price shot up like a rocket. Many people looked at Yu Yen and Zhan Pia Piao with strange expressions. These 2 girls were the ones who instigated us to resist the high price, but in the end, when they got their hands on it, they immediately withdrew. Fuck this little bitch. Tonic billion. Little bitches, I've been fooled by you. In a fit of anger, he sold the 6th one for 32,000. The 7th one 36,000. On the 8th head, the 3 girls didn't give in and competed with each other. The price kept going up until it broke through the 40,000 mark. Finally, it was sold at 42,000. As for the few girls who didn't make a move earlier, they were so regretful that their intestines were swollen. Soon there was only one left. In the beginning, everyone had the same idea. Let the rich ones take it first. Maybe in the end, those who couldn't afford it would take advantage of me. Who would have thought that the price would soar all the way to the top? Not only did they not gain any advantage, they even soared to the top of the clouds. As a result, those who were able to get one in the beginning were now unable to afford the price themselves. What the fuck? There were only 2 girls left who were relatively wealthy. When it came to the last one, it was a complete hand-to-hand battle. The 2 girls bid with red eyes. This time it broke through the 50,000 mark. After a fierce battle, a local girl from Fenghai finally bid 68,888 pieces of high-grade astral souls jade. As for the one who lost, her eyes were blue and her face was full of unwillingness. With her net worth, if she had made a move earlier, she would have been able to get it. She was hoping for a fluke, but unfortunately, she was one step behind. In the end, it was like drawing water with a bamboo basket. It was all for naught. Looking at the Bai tiger in someone's arms, her eyes turned red and she was about to cry. Others got one for 17,000, but I bid 67,000, and it was all for naught. This feeling was as depressing as a dog. However, the winner's face didn't look good either. After all, it was bought at a high price. Just thinking about it made her want to vomit blood. Looking back at Zhan Pia Piao and Yu Yen who got one for 17,000, they were so envious that their eyes turned blue. This was a surefire way to save both money and face. Both sides of the coin were covered. If they had known, they would have been the first to bid. They definitely wouldn't have spent so much money. It was a pity that money couldn't buy things. It was an ancient truth. At this point, the 9 baby tigers each had their own owner. Zhuo Duo smiled and took out a few pieces of paper. Junior sisters, come. If you haven't paid the money, give me an IOU. You just have to pay within a month. We're blood brothers. If one of us can't pay the balance within a month, it's okay. I'll spread the news and look for another buyer at this price. I believe the new owner will be happy to take the IOU to your place to take the little tiger. Who will owe you money? I'll give it to you when we get back. The girls were all arrogant and haughty. Since they dared to bid, how could they not be able to pay? If it's a little more expensive, I can afford it. Zuo smiled and handed out the paper to collect the IOU. Zuo sold the 9 by tigers for a total of 286,888 pieces of top-grade Astral Souls jade. This profit was really beyond Zuo's expectations. This group of girls is really rich. Haha, that'll definitely come out again next time. Zuo held the 9 IOU, his face convulsing with laughter. The 9 girls also became the center of attention. They hugged their little babies and were very happy. The other girls were jealous and came over to touch them again and again. Give me a hug. Give me a hug. Wow, so cute. One of them screamed, it's licking me. Wah wah wah. Begging voices came from the girls' group. A few of them came to Zuo with red eyes. Class monitors, get a few more. Zuo's head was big. He shook his head like a rattle drum. Get a few more? I won't go even if you beat me to death. With just these few, I'm already standing at the mouth of the volcano. If I go in and get more, I won't be able to see the sun tomorrow. Behind them, not far away, the dozen or so head teachers looked at each other. To be honest, these baby astral beasts were of high quality. They were at the nascent soul stage, but they were still in the infancy stage and needed a long period of growth. If they were really sold, the average price of 20,000 top-grade astral souls was already a sky-high price. However, in such a special environment, Zuo sold them at twice the price, and no one said that he was black-hearted. The starting price was a stone of astral souls, and the subsequent prices were all raised by themselves. No one could say that he was black-hearted, right? This little bastard. Is he in your class? A teacher looked at Wen Xingtian with a dark face. Ahem, he's our class monitor. Is he the Sword King? Kicking the crotch? Ahem. Why? He's really a bastard. Several teachers said in unison, this guy is really a bastard. He's too cunning. Several teachers sighed again and again. They were sure that even if they didn't ask for the baby astral beasts back and let Zuo take them away, Zuo would never be able to get them out and pass the inspection. They would definitely be confiscated. In the training area, no one was allowed to hunt or hurt the baby astral beasts. This was a rule. Otherwise, how could there be more astral beasts? What Zuo did was taboo. However, the baby astral beasts that Zuo got were indeed obtained by crossing the boundary into the territory of the nascent soul stage astral beasts with his own strength. It was not an opportunistic move. He had the strength to cross the boundary, but they could only let him do whatever he wanted. Even if he did that, the school would still confiscate half of the baby astral beasts. It was absolutely impossible to let him take all of them away. However, this guy was treacherous. He actually held an auction in the training area. He broke up the 9 baby astral beasts into 9 girls and each of them carried one out. This was much more difficult to deal with than Zuo himself. They bought the baby astral beasts with money and they were all sold at sky-high prices. You want to confiscate them? How could there be such a logic in this world? If the school really dared to do that, wouldn't it be a case of robbery? If Zuo did that, it would be fine. Even if he was beaten up, it would be fine. If he was a boy, it would be fine. Besides, it was a business without any capital. It was still the usual practice to leave 3 or 4 baby astral beasts for him to buy or use. However, now that the baby astral beasts were in the hands of multiple girls, what could he do? Not only would they cry in front of him and fight him to the death, but their respective families would also immediately come to him. Ah, how could you bully my Nanan? Oh, it's just a bye-bye tiger. Could it be that your hidden dragon high school is so poor that you've gone mad? Everyone could already imagine such strange words and the feelings of various big shots. Therefore, these bye-bye tigers could no longer be touched. They were already private property. No matter how unwilling the hidden dragon high school was, they could only pinch their noses and accept it from the beginning to the end. There was only one winner left in this matter. Zuo. This kid had earned enough cultivation resources for the 4 years of the Hidden Dragon High School in just one trial. Even more than that, In Fenghai, the significance and value of more than 200,000 to 300,000 high-grade jade of astral souls was too great. What kind of student is this? The teacher who had to bear the brunt of the lightning white tiger's attack had a depressed look on his face. This bastard went in for a stroll for less than 3 minutes and came out with a bunch of bai tigers. Then he happened to meet me. I could only help him block it. Could it be that I had to watch him get swallowed by the lightning white tiger? As a result, I became his free labor. Could it be that this kid had already calculated all the consequences? This is simply outrageous. Thinking of himself being chased by a bunch of lightning white tigers, the teacher felt that it was too unfair. Coincidence, it must be a coincidence, haha. When Xingtian laughed, but in his heart he thought, it would be strange if it wasn't calculated. Who asked you to stand so close? If that kid didn't have the confidence to let you take the blame, how could he do that? He cherishes his life more than anyone else. Do you think the nickname of Sword King is just for show? This kid is already despicable to the point where despicable is written on his face and his butt is stuffed with despicable. When Xingtian felt that this student of his had a bright future. At the very least, it shouldn't be a problem for him to become a sword emperor, or even a sword saint in the future. His potential in swordsmanship was enormous. Compared to his future in martial arts, there was still a future. Chapter 436. However, when Xingtian couldn't say that out loud. I can call my students cheap, but you guys. No way. The other teachers were speechless. To be honest, these teachers were jealous. Look at his students. They were full of tricks. After a while, they got a lot of top-grade jade of astral souls. Then they looked at their own students, who were rushing to be slaughtered. She had been ruthlessly ripped off, yet she still had a face full of excitement and happiness. Her face was full of motherly love as she hugged that little meatball and endlessly cherished it. Sigh. This was the gap between them. He watched as the girls each obtained their own little white tigers. Regardless of whether they obtained them or not, they actually stopped catching star beasts and gathered together in groups, chattering non-stop. They were all discussing what this little thing would eat and drink, how to find a place to live, how to train it, how to recognize it as its master. Discussions like this were endless amidst the hustle and bustle. Li Chenglong finally arrived. At this moment, Swollen's clothes had become tattered. Or rather, they had become pendants. However, he looked excited. Obviously, this guy had also gained a lot. Otherwise, he would not be so complacent. Zuo Duo's mind raced. With such a powerful character beside him, how could he not make use of him? I have to follow up with the after-sales service. He shouted in a deep voice, junior sisters and students who bought the bai tigers just now, please come over again. Let our handsome Li, knowledgeable Li, explain to you the temperament of the lightning white tiger, how to raise it, what to feed it, and how to train it. Li Chenglong was confused. What? However, a few of the girls had already gathered around, each of them carrying an adorable and snow-white little white tiger in their arms. Their faces were filled with concentration, and their exquisite little ears were all perked up. Zuo Duo quickly explained everything. Then he said, knowledgeably, please start your performance. This is your highlight moment. Li Chenglong's mind was in a knot. He was speechless for a long time. I'm working hard over there. And you're doing business here? From the looks of it, he must have earned quite a bit. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so attentive. Was this considered after-sales service? However, the beauties below were already filled with curiosity. Li Chenglong wouldn't drop the ball at this time. He quickly flipped through the information of the white lightning tiger in his mind, and raised a finger to Zuo Duo. Zuo Duo shook his head firmly. He stretched out a finger and cut it down the middle. Li Chenglong quickly gestured. Okay. Zuo Duo was all smiles as he held up 2 fingers. Victory. Li Chenglong was instantly filled with motivation. After deliberating over his words, he began to speak with fervor and assurance. This matter was really not difficult for Zongzong. He was extremely familiar with it. Even if there was some exaggeration, it would still be reasonable. When the white lightning tiger grows up, its 2 horns belong to the cloud attribute. The place where the white lightning tiger usually lives is often filled with clouds and mist. It's like a fairyland. When the white lightning tiger grows up, its two horns derive the ability to gather the wind and cloud. Then it collides with each other to produce thunder and lightning. The adult white lightning tiger can control this thunder and lightning to strike where it wants to strike. In fact, this is the most important attack method of the white lightning tiger. Whenever the white lightning tiger starts to emit thunder and lightning, it's as spectacular as going through a tribulation. In the clouds and mist, a winged tiger flips up and down. There's thunder and lightning below, and the wind and rain are dark. The white lightning tiger's attack power includes biting, crashing, and even its tail and wings. These are all places where it can attack. Yes, you have to pay attention here. When it's about to reach adulthood, the white lightning tiger will grow a pair of very large wings. When it reaches adulthood, this pair of wings will be completely formed. It can carry 5 or 6 people to and fro tens of thousands of miles in a day. It's exceptionally handsome. The white lightning tiger at this stage will become very large, but it's still very beautiful. The white lightning tiger's innate talent is extremely outstanding. Even if it doesn't receive good cultivation resources in its infancy, it can still grow to the nascent soul realm. But if you provide it with sufficient nutrition and spiritual materials in its infancy, it has a very high chance of advancing to the cloud transformation realm, or even higher when it reaches adulthood. The faces of the girls holding the white tiger below were all glowing. It could be cultivated to the cloud transformation realm, or even higher. It could carry several people to and fro tens of thousands of miles in a day. When the girls who had participated in the bidding heard this information, their intestines swelled with regret. If they had known earlier, they would have bought it even if they had to go bankrupt. Next, I'll talk about how to distinguish the current state of the white lightning tiger cub, what to eat and drink before the full moon, what to eat and drink for 3 months after the full moon, and then what to eat in the future, how to provide them with spiritual materials, how to train them. Teacher Lee started the lesson. His explanation was clear and organized, from the shallow to the deep, and every detail was linked. All the girls listened with sparkling eyes. No matter if they had bought it or not, all of them listened attentively. Now there might be a chance. What if there was someone among the 9 who couldn't afford it? When you're cultivating, you can also carry it in your arms. Cultivating is based on absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. At the same time you're absorbing, the tiger cub is also absorbing spiritual energy, so you don't have to worry about it causing trouble. In fact, this is the time when they're most obedient and docile. The girls were even more envious. Carrying it in your arms to cultivate, carrying it out to play after cultivation. Why did I really want it? Li Chenglong talked nonstop, all the way until the trial ended. His mouth was dry. He went up to Zhou Xiaoduo excitedly and rubbed his fingers with a wretched look on his face. Zhou Xiaoduo looked confused. Li Chenglong's face turned gloomy. Oh. Zhou Xiaoduo, huh? Li Chenglong's nose twitched. You want to go back on your word? Your spatial ring. I'll give you another 1% discount. Zhou Xiaoduo reluctantly gave in. Li Chenglong was confused. May I ask if I can repay the debt from my spatial ring in this lifetime? Good luck. Zhou Xiaoduo encouraged him earnestly. Li Chenglong's face twisted. I'm so stupid, really? I actually wanted to take money from Zhou Xiaoduo. I'm so stupid. I've lost my mind. I was wrong. Li Chenglong sighed. The girls were now feeding the little tiger's nutrient solution. They were all very careful and gentle. It was hard to describe their gentleness. Gather. A loud shout suddenly rang out. All the classes gathered and prepared to leave the trial field and return to school. The purpose of this trial was to give credits to the students. And now the experience had been completed perfectly. The large number of star beasts hunted this time could also make up for the deficit of the Hidden Dragon High School. There was even a surplus. They lined up in a line. Li Chenglong looked around and said, Zhua. Where are Little Worm and Little Ice Egg? Zhou Xiaoduo's face darkened. We'll talk when we get back. Li Chenglong sensed that things were not good and could not help turning pale as he said, Are the 2 of them? All right. Didn't I say we'll talk when we get back? Why are you being so long-winded? Li Chenglong's eyes turned red. He said sadly, "Did something really happen? We'll talk about it when we get back." Li Chenglong's aura suddenly changed. A fierce murderous aura burst out. He said sternly, "What happened?" When Xingtian turned his head and said sternly, "Shut up," Li Chenglong did not listen. He looked up and asked, "Where are Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing? Why don't I see them?" The other students also reacted. "Yes, where are the siblings?" When Xingtian took a deep breath and said lightly, "We'll talk about it when we get back. This is a serious matter." When the entire class 1 heard this, everyone instantly fell silent. The entrance and exit were checked very strictly. The higher-ups of the Hidden Dragon High School all looked gloomy. Their eyes were like swords as they looked around. Vice Principal Xiang Quangren was already nowhere to be found. This trip back made everyone feel that the atmosphere was not right. Their hearts were heavy and they were very depressed. Could it be that the siblings, who were so straightforward, actually got into an accident? Li Chenglong did not say a word along the way. His whole body was filled with anger and murderous aura. As he walked, drops of tears quietly fell to the ground. "These few days, I was not very happy when you called me swollen, but now, I really hope that you two will suddenly appear in front of me and call me swollen." As he thought about it, he could not help but feel sad. It was hard to suppress. On the way back to Hidden Dragon High School, the matter of the ranking of all the students in Class 1 had already been thrown out of the window. His heart was filled with Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing. What exactly happened? At the entrance of Hidden Dragon High School, there was a huge hole. It was said that Vice Principal Xiang Quangren flew directly from afar and landed here in a rage, creating a huge hole. Then he went to look for the principal. Why was Vice Principal Xiang so angry? What exactly happened? Everyone's heart was heavy. As a result, the atmosphere of the entire school was shrouded in a gloomy fog. The students went to hand in their communication devices and their personal gains. The teachers counted very quickly. With more than 20 people counting together, it was naturally very fast. After counting and verifying that there was no mistake, they kept the game in the storage and changed to the next one. Zhuo Duo and Li Chenglong were lined up together. Swollen's mental state was somewhat abnormal, but Zhuo Duo did not say anything. He even hoped that Swollen's current mood could last for a while longer, because such a mood could make a person grow quickly see the ugliness and gloom of this world. Understand that this world was not as beautiful as one imagined. Finally, it was Zhuo Duo's turn. As soon as he took the communication device, the teacher suddenly said, "So it's you, kid." Instantly, all the teachers in charge of statistics turned to look at him. It was as if they had seen a rare and protected animal. Chapter 437. All the teachers in the on-duty room of the Hidden Dragon High School had a deep impression of this demon. He kept pressing buttons as if he was cheating. The teachers even suspected that the buttons of the training communicator had been broken since the beginning. They looked at the record. 45,678. 45678. Such a number that you must be doing this on purpose, right? Do you like a straight so much? Brother, are you playing card stud? This is a straight flush. The other students who had the most didn't even have more than 10,000. This guy actually had so many. Take them out. Hence, Zhuo Duo started to take them out in batches like the Yangtze River. Moreover, he took out 100 at a time. He didn't even need to count them. When it reached 5,000, he took away a batch. When it reached 5,000, he took away another batch. He kept taking them out and taking them away. The other teachers and students in the queue were all stunned. Finally, the embryonic breathing realm star beasts were all taken out. However, just the embryonic breathing realm star beasts alone had taken out more than 40,000. Then, he started to take out the origin alchemy realm star beasts again. It was still a batch of 100. The origin alchemy realm star beasts were relatively large in size. They were taken out in batches. When Zhuo Duo finished taking them out, he counted the total number. It really was 45,678. Not one more, not one less. Everyone was stunned by this number. This guy must be one of the legendary big shots, right? If he wanted to reach such a shocking number, he would have to destroy everything in his path. For 5, 6, 7, 8. The calculation is correct. The hair on this teacher's forehead drooped down. He looked very weak. He turned around to take the last batch into the warehouse. However, he faintly felt that something was not right. However, he couldn't tell what exactly was wrong. What exactly was wrong? Why couldn't he figure it out? He could only shout, "Next!" Swishaoduo looked at his warehouse and mixed with everyone's harvest. Only then did he feel relieved and leave immediately. The dragon blood flying dagger on his body had already turned an unprecedented dark red. It was still the same, emitting a faint heat. In the end, why did Swishaoduo rest? It wasn't that Swishaoduo wanted to slack off, but the dragon blood flying dagger couldn't be used anymore. For the first time, the energy was fully absorbed. This time he had really earned a lot and was overjoyed. The dragon blood flying dagger was fully charged, and he had earned more than 280,000 high-grade astral souls jades. Apart from that, the credits would also belong to Hai. Being the champion was definitely not a problem. After Swishaoduo, the next one was Li Chenglong. Swollen's harvest was also very impressive. After harvesting more than 9,700 astral beasts, he was firmly in second place. In third place was Meng Zhongjun, who had a little over 9,100 points. Class 1 had really taken the top 3 places in this experiential learning. Back in the classroom, when Li Chenglong saw that the seat beside him was empty, he could no longer hold it in. He choked with sobs and said, "Did something really happen to them? Are they gone?" Suddenly, he burst into tears and wailed. The atmosphere in the class was solemn and heavy. A few girls' faces were red, including Zhen Piapiao and Yu Yan'er. Even though they were still hugging Bai Hu, they suddenly did not feel happy anymore. When Xingtian was also in a bad mood. When he saw that everyone was present, he said a few words and waved his hand. "School is over. Go back and cultivate. Don't run around if you have nothing to do." Then he went out first. The students' footsteps were as heavy as 1,000 pounds. When they walked to the empty seats of Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing, they could not help but take a few more glances at them. All of them looked sad. Swishaoduo stood at the side and said gloomily, "What are you looking at? Is it strange that someone is missing? When we gather a year after graduation, even if half of them are missing, it's still considered missing. When we gather 10 years later, it's already a great fortune if 10 of them are still alive. Isn't it just 2 people who died? Can't you see past this kind of thing?" Swishaoduo said gloomily as a martial artist. "Can't you see past life and death? Today Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing are missing. Who knows who will be missing tomorrow? Isn't it normal to lose one's life because of carelessness?" Swishaoduo said, "Stop looking. Go back. While you're still alive, sleep more and play more. If you don't want to die, then practice more." His voice was cold, gloomy, and even ruthless. Many students looked up at him angrily. "Class monitors, why are you so cold? It's our classmates who are missing. Our classmates who get along with each other day and night. Then what do you want? Cry. If crying can save them, how about I take the lead and cry first?" Swishaoduo said coldly, "What's the use of your concern? Can you avenge them? You're not even as good as them. How dare you criticize me? Think about your own insignificant cultivation. Haha. What's there to cry about? Maybe you'll be the ones dying tomorrow. What's the big deal? Anyway, I won't cry." Swishaoduo rolled his eyes. "Those who die deserve it." Jia Kuang snorted angrily and strode out. "Swishaoduo, wait until my cultivation surpasses yours. I'll beat you until you cry." Swishaoduo laughed and mocked him desperately. "So you don't dare to fight now? Haha. You'll feel good if you say something fierce, right? Jia Kuang, beat me until I cry? Believe it or not, I'll beat you until you cry. I promise I can do it. I can do it now. Come up if you dare." Jia Kuang clenched his fists and glared at Swishaoduo with fire in his eyes. Swishaoduo sent him flying with a kick. "With your cultivation, who knows when you'll die in a daze? How dare you make trouble for me in the future? Get lost." Zhuoxiao's words offended all the students in the class. They walked out with fire in their eyes, feeling like their chests were about to explode. However, what Zhuoxiao said was right. With his cultivation base, how could he take revenge for his classmate? Even if they met the murderer, wouldn't they just be giving up their lives? Cultivate. Cultivate. Work hard to defeat Zhuoxiao. Just to defeat this damn Zhuoxiao. If they didn't beat him to death, they would beat his cheap mouth. After everyone left, Li Chenglong still stood there in a daze. However, he didn't cry anymore. His eyes were no longer red. He seemed to be thinking. It's swollen. Let's go. Zhuoxiao sighed. I know you're upset. I know you can't bear to part with Xiangbing, but the dead can't come back to life. Let's go back and find a place to drink. Li Chenglong was stunned. Then he suddenly smiled and scolded in a low voice. Zhua, I was almost fooled by you. You're a fucking bastard. How dare you lie to me? Zhuoxiao was stunned. Then he said, you're a smart bastard. Shut your fucking mouth. We'll talk when we get back. Don't you understand? Li Chenglong was completely relieved. He made a face and then wiped his eyes. However, his tears fell again. Well done. Continue. Zhuoxiao whispered. Li Chenglong suddenly showed a sorrowful look. He opened his mouth and began to cry. Little ice egg. Zhuoxiao almost fell over. Sure enough, anyone could be the best actor. This guy had such a trick up his sleeve. He had underestimated him in the past. He grabbed someone's scalp and left quickly. When Xingtian stepped into the secret room, there were quite a few people in the secret chamber, but only 2 of them were free. One of them was Yi Chongqing, and the other was Xiang Quangren. Both of them looked gloomy, as if water could drip from their faces. Of the other 5 people, 3 of them were still alive and tied to the pillars, while the other 2 were dead and thrown to the side. How is it? When Xingtian asked as soon as he came in, did they confess? They did. Yi Chongqing said calmly, I believe there are not many people in this world who can insist on not confessing under our methods. Then who did it? They confessed that it was a message from a hall master of the Tao-seeking alliance. Asked the Tao League? It's them? When Xingtian's eyes flashed, he said, but it's easy now that we have a target. Principal, what do you plan to do next? Yi Chongqing sucked in a breath of air and said, the Tao-seeking alliance's power is neither big nor small. It's a gang formed by over 1,000 martial artists. Its alliance leader is an early-stage cloud transformation cultivator. However, the key now is the time to act. Just an early-stage cloud transformation cultivator? When Xingtian snorted, I can deal with him alone. But this matter. Do we need to wait one more day for the other party to transfer the money and find out the other party's account number? Or do we act now? When Xingtian asked, Yi Chongqing had a headache. He said, now we're struggling with this problem. If we act now, we're afraid of alerting the enemy. Then wait. When Xingtian made a prompt decision, he said it wasn't easy to find a clue. Let's not target it. After asking the Tao League, the clue was cut off. Asking the Tao League is just a gang with a cloud transformation cultivator as its leader. What qualifications does it have to instigate such a disturbance? It definitely has nothing to do with the core. Yi Chongqing paced 2 steps and said, that's right. So for this operation, we must capture everyone related to the Tao League in one fell swoop. We can't miss a single person and we can't kill a single person. We must capture them all alive. We must not let them go unpunished. Interrogate them one by one. We must pry open a gap from this side. Xiang Quangren said. Since the target has been confirmed, I'll apply for Sister Shi, Sister Lu, and Old Cheng's family to participate in this operation as well. Even if we can't take revenge from the root, it's good to see the light at the end of the tunnel. When Xingtian and Yi Chongqing fell silent at the same time. After a long time, Yi Chongqing let out a long sigh. All right. However, the others must not know. Then they should not make a move if they can. For the time being, it's better to hide in the dark. Otherwise, manpower for the operation, the entire school's upper management, all the teachers in the school. When Xingtian frowned. Quangren, Xingtian, the 2 of you are in charge of the operation. I'll hold the line in midair and confirm if there are any unusual movements among the people dispatched. Yi Chongqing's expression was solemn. Okay. This was undoubtedly a major breakthrough. The few unsolved cases of more than 20 years had finally revealed the tip of the iceberg today. The three of them felt their blood boiling. Monthly votes and recommendation votes. Chapter 438. However, Yi Chongqing and the other two were also indescribably angry, because this Dao League had always had a good relationship with the Hidden Dragon High School for decades before this. Almost every year they would donate a lot of money. Before this, the three of them had never thought that this matter would actually be related to the Dao League. No wonder Yi Chongqing's face was so gloomy. The reason why they were all captured alive and not killed on the spot was just in case. What if it was just a hall master of the Dao League who was stirring up trouble, and the others were innocent and didn't know anything? They couldn't kill the wrong person. The cries of the Xiang family shook the sky. The roars of the Xiang family men resounded throughout the entire Fenghai city. Revenge! Revenge! The roars of the Xiang family. Countless experts of the Xiang family spread out their powerful divine senses and enveloped the entire Fenghai city. Something big had happened to the Xiang family. Countless rumors and guesses spread rapidly throughout the entire Fenghai city. What happened to the Xiang family? I don't know. Something big must have happened. Maybe someone died. Think so too. Otherwise, they wouldn't have such a big reaction. Maybe it's an important person who died. Look, someone discovered that the younger generation who came in and out of the Xiang family were all dressed in mourning clothes. Although the older generation didn't change their clothes, they were also dressed in plain clothes, either green, blue, or black. In short, all the bright clothes were gone. So it's the younger generation who died? It can't be the most outstanding of the younger generation, Xiangchong or Xiangbing, right? It's really possible. It said that Xiangchong and Xiangbing participated in the trial of the Hidden Dragon High School. But I didn't see them come back. Then this matter is serious. It's more than that. I heard that the person in charge of this training is Vice Principal Xiang Quangren, who has just returned. The first time he returned, his great-grandchildren got into an accident. It's inexcusable whether it's for public or private reasons. As the turmoil grew bigger and bigger, the Xiang family outside hurriedly returned. In the villa, Li Chenglong and Zhou Xiaoduo were constantly reviewing the game. After knowing that Xiangchong and Xiangbing were fine, Li Chenglong's spirit returned. In this trial you are first and I am second. The top 3 are all ours. Our class has taken up more than half of the top 30 spots. We have about 25 spots, right? Li Chenglong sighed. But compared to the liveliness of the previous years, this year's trial, which has always been regarded as the #1 honor among the freshmen, has actually been washed away to the point where there isn't even the slightest bit of atmosphere. I don't know what to say. Zhou Xiaoduo squinted. What kind of atmosphere do you want? If Xiangbing and Xiangchong were not fine, don't you know how you would feel? What's more, the grand meeting will be held 3 days later to celebrate and summarize the results of this trial. It's not time yet, so how do you know what will happen then? That's true. Li Chenglong asked, what exactly happened? Zhou Xiaoduo recounted everything in detail. He did not leave out even the slightest bit of detail. This included the first time he attacked, when the other party resisted or was caught off guard and was sent flying. He described everything in detail. Then Li Chenglong recorded it down. Not only did he record the details of this incident, but he also pieced together the past of the few principals who had resigned. Li Chenglong began to gather, disperse, analyze individually, combine, analyze, exchange, and blend. A few pieces of jade of astral souls were played around by Li Chenglong like props. Something's not right. This incident. Only the Umno Alliance has the River of Forgetfulness, but it appeared in Fenghai. It's almost certain that there must be a stronghold of the Umno Alliance in Fenghai. And there must be a special treasure like the River of Forgetfulness, which only the Umno Alliance has. At least some of the core stargates of the UMNO Alliance must exist. It might not be the doing of these things by the UMNO Alliance. These are all clues. Li Chenglong's face was serious. He connected the lines to each other, as if he was playing with the right answer. It didn't take long for the lines to be densely drawn. If someone with trypophobia saw this, they would definitely not be able to stand it. However, Li Chenglong's face was full of enjoyment. Finding out what he needed from these complicated clues was what he liked to do the most. On the other hand, Swishaoduo's face was filled with disgust. Looking at the dense lines gave him a headache. You do it slowly. I'm going back to practice. Oh, Li Chenglong was absent-minded. Then, he was suddenly shocked. What about the two of them? They're safe. Swishaoduo disappeared with a whoosh. Safe. Li Chenglong shook his head and drew another line. Connect from here. This piece of paper is still too small. There are too few empty spaces left. In the future, if I want to deduce everything, I need to add too many things. When Li Chenglong was done, it was already an hour later. He went up and called Swishaoduo down to take a look. This is what I've just deduced. Look at the top. Swishaoduo felt a headache. It's not even 1/3 yet. I can't understand it even if I look at it. There aren't any clear clues. Let's talk about it after you analyze it clearly. Li Chenglong's face immediately turned bitter. He had spent so much effort and so much time. How could he be like this? Humph. Let's go. Follow me to sell things. Let's go to the first grade of the firmament. That's where you need to work. Show off your knowledge and your eloquence. First grade of the firmament? What good things do you have to sell? I have a lot of good things. They can blind your eyes. Just watch. Swishaoduo pulled Li Chenglong out of the door. On the other side, in the warehouse of the Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School, a few teachers were staying up late to check their gains. The more they checked, the more they felt that something was wrong. Come over and take a look. Why do I feel that the color of these starfire fox skins is too dull? The skins of these bears are also dull. And these. Damn, why are there so many things wrong? There are also some here. I was wondering why I felt that something was wrong with these gains. But I couldn't tell what the problem was. So it's like this. What's going on? Check the inner core. The condition of the inner core is also not right. A teacher frowned. This seems to be caused by the lack of energy in these star beasts. Compared to other beasts of the same species, they are missing at least 1/3 of their vitality. I have the same feeling too. It's about 1/3. Not only their skins, even their bones, inner core, blood, and spiritual energy. They are all weakened by 1/3. But this shouldn't happen. Could it be that these star beasts are all malnourished? Pooh. To hell with malnourishment. Can they still be used? They can still be used and it doesn't affect them much. But, feels like there's a fly in a perfectly good meal. It's really disgusting. Will these hinder the sale? Definitely will. We can only sell them at a discount. If we don't sell them at a discount, it will definitely affect our reputation. It won't be good for the future. Let's talk to the finance department and the school's affairs department. Let them send people over to take a look. Don't think that we are. That's true. These two departments are so troublesome every day. They are always blocking people. I don't like them. You go. Sigh. Actually, we don't have to tell them. The affairs department is Vice Principal Wu's people. We can just let them take it over and sell it. As for the problems, what does it have to do with us? The ones the students handed in are all fine. Damn Zhan Xiaofei. You are so cunning now. Where did you learn this from? Hehe. They almost blocked me to death. Besides, I'm not scheming against them. This is wisdom. I'm judging the situation. Hehe. Good idea. Let's do that. Judge the situation. Swishaoduo and Li Chenglong walked leisurely and arrived at Common Sky Grade 1. Li Chenglong's eyes wandered around. He wanted to look for the decorative puppy again. He was still thinking about the puppy. Swishaoduo entered first with his head held high. Where's your manager, Kai? I have a big deal and plan to talk to him about it. Swishaoduo had his hands behind his back. His temperament was unusually cold. Sorry for the late update. When I woke up in the morning, my wrist was very swollen. So I went to the hospital for the whole morning. The ointment that I kept on was out of stock. After the swelling subsided, I took a few normal ones from the hospital. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.